Hello, everybody. Welcome to Frame Trap. We have an exciting episode in store for you. We're talking about a lot of games. We're both Bloodworth and myself use the word overwhelmed right now. We are overwhelmed, but in the best possible way. We've got an exciting episode because of games, but also because of format. We're mixing it up a little bit. This is something that we've experimented with before. We're going to be experimenting with it again. Instead of going person by person in the What You've Been Playing segment, we're going to go game by game, and we're not leaving anything out. I asked the allies everything that they wanted to talk about, we're prepared to talk about. We're including all of it, so nothing is going to...
Unfortunately, the things that I want to talk about that I can't talk about because I haven't started playing them yet.
Right, that you're prepared to talk about, for sure. But before we dig into the games, I always like to get started with a little bit of banter. Lower the guard, enter the frame trap, get comfortable with one another. And so I've got a question for you. Okay. If you could put any person, fictional, not fictional, alive or dead, if you could make them the honorary 10th ally, who would they be and why?
10th ally.
I mean, I think we've already gone down that road. We got some Rick Hogue appearing on almost every podcast.
Yeah. So would he be your choice, fictional, not fictional, alive or dead, for his excellent legal advice and insight?
I think kind of like how Shane's got Pack Attack, or Pactor Factor now. Mm-hmm. I think that's a fun little twist.
Yeah.
If there could be a Rick Hogue show sometime in the future.
A Rick Hogue show, like somebody cruising up, driving to shoot that show every week. Setting up at a law firm would be fantastic. Mine, a lot of these are for my own amusement. I think I would like to put Wesker in there just to see how Huber would respond.
Yeah.
I don't know what you would do to him, and I just kind of want to see. It's like putting these two things in a cage and seeing what happens.
Imagine Wesker reviewing a game.
Yeah.
What would that even be?
I bet it would be extremely pretentious.
Yeah. Yep. Really detailed.
Yeah, really detailed, but good. Like you're mad at it, but a good review.
Yeah.
Yeah. You got anybody?
For me, I'm gonna have to say John Carpenter.
John Carpenter.
John Carpenter. We can get the John Carpenter.
My understanding is that John Carpenter plays video games. I believe he was talking about Prey.
Yeah, he was talking about Prey.
Okay.
He was talking about Prey.
Prey's definitely a John Carpenter kind of game.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
We could play some games with John Carpenter. He could make some music with Ian.
Can you imagine John Carpenter on an Easy Update? What would that be like?
Yeah. It would be great.
What would you stream? If you could stream a game with John Carpenter, what would be the first game that you'd stream?
Evil Within 2.
Yeah?
Yep.
I think he'd be into it.
Blind playthrough
and then
with
would you,
John Carpenter.
Subsequently expose him to the rest of the Mikami backlog?
Probably, yeah. I'd want to throw an Alien Isolation in there.
Okay.
See his thoughts.
Yep.
Then start talking about Alien, obviously. Okay. Just being able to sit down and pick his brain.
I have expected you to pick a wrestler. Another one that I think would be good would be Macho Man Randy Savage.
Oh.
Just would be a treat on streams and things like that.
Talk about energy.
Talk about energy. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Every game that we play, every tournament, just the screams that would come out of his mouth would be very good.
Yeah.
I think we were talking about it before the show. We were talking about SNL and the Papyrus skit. In case you haven't seen it, Google it. It's very funny. But I think Tom Hanks would be really good as well.
Tom Hanks.
Easy allies. Can you imagine? He always comes a little bit late. He's about 10 minutes late to the group stream. But when he comes in, he's making everybody feel good. Yeah. Loosening them up. Tom Hanks loosening everyone up.
Sometimes he sends Colin Hanks.
Okay.
Which is when he can't make it.
Okay.
He sends Colin.
Is Colin his son?
Yep.
Okay. I don't know anything about Colin Hanks.
He's jolly.
Okay.
He'll come with baked goods and sacked lunches.
Why? It's just a Colin Hanks thing?
Just Colin Hanks bringing food.
That's a pretty good thing to have. Yep. I think Tom Hanks would also be really wonderful on Tabletop Escapades.
Oh my gosh.
As a character.
Yes.
Probably wouldn't know any of the rules, but it's okay. I'm your host for this Off the Rails podcast, Ben Moore. With me today, I'm joined by Daniel Bloodworth, who, I have to say, if you haven't seen it, look up the archive of his most recent Dark Souls 3 stream, because he cosplayed as a kid. Which character was it again?
Laddersmith Gilligan.
It is... He spent money and put a lot of effort into this costume. Really stepped up his game. It's pretty wonderful.
Quality cosplay.
Quality cosplay. Watching it with me, to my right, Michael Huber.
Hello.
How are you feeling?
Feeling a little tired today.
You feeling a little tired? What's making
Feeling
you
a little
tired?
tired, a little blue. Just the Las Vegas
Oh, sure. Absolutely.
incident.
Absolutely.
I got some family and friends live out there.
Sure.
So just kind of.
Is everything okay?
Everyone out there is safe and sound. But
Definitely.
Not a lot of, a lot of people are not safe and sound.
Well,
so,
my
sucks.
thoughts
Yeah.
go out to everybody that you know. Obviously, to the entire city.
Yeah.
It's a pretty horrible thing.
Definitely.
But I, as much as possible, when warranted, I like to make this show jolly. Is a word we like to
Exactly.
throw around, and
Love and respect.
I can't think of a better game to start with in terms of vibes than SteamWorld Dig.
Yes. This game lights me up.
lights you up.
Lights me up. I cannot stop smiling when I play this game.
So we're all at different points with SteamWorld Dig 2. Blood, you finished SteamWorld Dig 2.
Yeah, I finished it and did the almost 100%ed it for the review.
Whoa.
You were about 4 hours in, you said?
Yep.
Okay. And I've played an hour and a half. Daniel Bloodworth, since you have the most experience with it, let's get started with you.
Can I
What are
grab
your
a
thoughts?
soda really quick?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Can
yeah.
you grab me a soda? Can you grab me a soda and a
I'll
cup
grab
holder?
the coasters.
I said cup holder. I meant coaster. Blood, how does it compare to the first game?
Yeah, I try not to repeat myself too much, but
Sure.
the main thing that I took away from it, and maybe this is because I just went into the first game blind, is like people are just like SteamWorld Dig is really good, like you should play it.
Yeah.
And I actually ended up not playing it until like years later. But I was out of town. I had 3DS with me. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna play through this, And so anytime I was in the bedroom or whatever, I would just be playing some SteamWorld Dig. And so to me, the first game, it was almost like a good form of a bait and switch. Like it felt like just like this simple, like, all right, I'm just gonna click on a bunch of tiles, and I'm like, okay, I get money, and that feels good, and I go, sell it, and I upgrade, and I feel better about digging, and then it's like, all of a sudden you start getting these new mechanics, and you start getting the new areas, and you're like, there's more going on in this game than I realized. And 2 to me feels like, okay, we did that. We're not gonna try to like replicate that. We're just gonna make like a bigger, more cohesive world. And so like right away, like there's a bit of overworld that you go through, and you get a new skill like right off the bat before you do much else. And so that still does have the digging elements, but it is in a game that feels much more like a more typical Metroidvania kind of game.
Yeah. In terms of this sort of Metroidvania vibe that it has, where you're exploring around, finding secrets, getting new equipment, and then getting new mods for that equipment so it functions in a different way, how do you think that stuff is doled out? Do you think the upgrades that you can get are meaningful? Do you think you're finding that stuff at a good pace? Like, is that stuff interesting in and of itself?
Yeah, I think it all works pretty well. The big new ability upgrades, they're exactly what you want out of that kind of game, because for instance, the hook shot, like when you get the hook shot, it completely changes how you move around that world. Like before, like you're relying a lot on running and jumping and wall jumping, and now it's just like zip. It's like, all right, and then hold on to that wall and then zip, but they almost immediately give you new challenging things to do now that you have this new skill. So it's like you are more powerful, but then you also have to like master this ability that you've gained.
So what sort of new challenges are they presenting to you in order to account for that power that you're getting?
I mean, it's a different kind of platforming, basically. It's like you've the one that makes the most use of it is it's kind of like a floor is lava kind of concept, where there's just switches all over this room, and if you touch any of those switches, then you fail. So you're like having to like precisely hit those points in the wall, zip across the room, and like
really
never touch a switch. And I think that's another thing that's different, is that even though they had those side caves in the first SteamWorld Dig, in this one, every side cave feels like
a shrine from Zelda Breath of the Wild.
Like it feels very like specifically, purposely like a challenge room. So that, you know, every time it's like, okay, I've got to figure out a puzzle, or I've got to make use of my skills, or I've got to like get through some dastardly platforming.
Huber, you said this game lights you up.
10 out of 10.
What's the number
5-star
one
game.
reason that it lights you up?
Vibes.
Vibes. Tell me
Jolly.
about those vibes.
Jolly, colorful vibes.
Okay, is it just colorful? Is it just happy?
Super colorful.
Is it more meaningful? than
Dude, the best part, because again, I love SteamWorld Dig 1, love SteamWorld Heist.
that? Yeah.
Love that this game starts off with her Dorothy looking for Rusty.
Yeah.
Mysterious. The immediate connection of like, you know, we're not gonna like shove this down your throat, but like something happened with Rusty. You're looking for him, and it's this like old west vibe of like getting to town and like following the leads of like, yo, last I heard he was here. So I just really like the the scenario of it all. And then just all the quirky little people within the hub world, all the people you encounter, like the guy that collects the artifacts, you know, the mayor, the guy that buys all of your relics.
Well, the mayor's mother, too.
The mayor's mother is so hilarious. Like, the whole cast just has personality. And, yeah, the game just feels really good to play. The economy is really good. Things just... Like you get
Economy's very important to you.
Economy's very important to me. So like, it starts out you keep getting upgrades at a pretty steady clip, and then you get to a point where it's like, all right, I've kind of got all these cheap upgrades. Now I need like 700 to get this upgrade, or 500 to get this one. And while you go to harder locations and they give you more money, it still like takes a little bit of time to get your upgrades. So they sparse them out.
SteamWorld Dig 2 is not unique in its ability to do this, but something that I always love when you're given multiple options for upgrade paths is when you can't immediately look at a skill tree and go, well, I obviously need that more than anything else.
Yeah.
And that, to me, at least, happened in SteamWorld Dig 2, where it's like, well, I do want to power up my pickaxe, but boy, that light's going down really quickly, and my inventory is always full, and so I feel like all of these different paths are equally valuable, or at least there are a lot of valuable paths.
Yeah, then you get the jackhammer, and you have to start using that because there's more steel deeper down, so then you're using more water, so then I'm like, oh man, now I gotta start upgrading my water. So
Blood, throwing it back to you.
Upgrades are cool.
Yeah.
Hubert talked about the personality and the immediate connection that you had with Rusty in the first game. What do you think about Dorothy in comparison to Rusty? Is she an interesting character? How does she compare to Rusty? Is she kind of just Rusty the sequel? What's going on there?
Yeah, I don't know that I'd say they have a whole lot of personality to them. You know, obviously you have the little will-o-wisp character along with her, Finn.
What's his name? Finn, okay.
Yeah. And so that character is kind of funny because he's always dark. He's like, let's blow stuff up. Let's, you know, can we get to kill anyone yet? And like, you know, and so she's just kind of, you know, trying to keep him contained. But yeah, I don't know that there's anything about her personally that really strikes me. One thing that we didn't talk about in terms of vibes is the music is real.
Oh my gosh, the music.
Yeah.
Yes,
You get into
Bloodworth.
that town, it's like, okay, let me just hang out for a while.
Yep.
More than
Listen
one song where I'm just blown away by the music.
And then you like start playing it in your head when you're not playing the game. It's like,
Yep.
just listen to put that on loop.
It's so good, Blood.
Do you agree that Dorothy and Rusty don't have a lot of personality?
In terms of like deep backstory and, you know, a lot of dialogue and lore to build them up.
Yeah.
No, but the blueprint is there and more than enough for me. Like she shows up in town. She's got a no nonsense attitude. Like, I'm going down there. I'm going to find him. I need to find out what's happening.
Right.
So for a, you know, it's a smaller game that's not hugely focused on plot. Again, it's more about the scenario.
Yeah.
So I think there's enough there to get behind her and get behind her cause.
So it's been a good year for Metroidvania games. You've got Dead Cells earlier in the year. You've got Metroid Samus Returns, which just recently came out. And then you have another game that I think shares a lot of similarities with those types of games. And not only that, but it's also just an extremely crowded year. What makes SteamWorld Dig 2 worth playing if you've been playing a lot of these types of games, and what makes it worth making time for in this very crowded year?
Accessibility. Okay, I have been paralyzed the last week or two in terms of starting a new game.
Okay.
You know, I've been in the Destiny 2 black hole.
Yep.
Yeah.
Same.
We've had a ton of streams, ton of work. It's been nonstop. So when I finished Destiny 2, you know, because we've been so busy and everything, it's like I keep going back to Destiny 2 because I'm already invested in it and I can play like, you know, the weekly reset or a strike here and there, play with some friends. I haven't been like ready to start a new game. Like I have Nier to start, Yakuza to start, Dishonored 2 Death of the Outsider to start. Those are all very time consuming, very intense, very big bricks.
Yeah.
October's coming up with all those huge games. SteamWorld Dig 2 is a game that you can flip on for 30 minutes at a time or sit there like I did for 4 hours and just addiction can't stop, but it's a very good game to throw on for any amount of time you have.
You didn't intend to sit there for 4 hours. It just happened.
Correct.
That's the best.
Yeah, I think again it goes back to that, you know, that sense of empowerment towards like you're always just getting a little bit better. It's like go down, come back up to town, see what else you can improve, tinker a bit here and there, you know. And I do feel like there's some stuff like once you get to the high end of your upgrades that feels a little bit overpowered and takes away from some of the late game challenge areas. But for the most part, like that's the thing that kind of keeps you in there. It's like you're just always getting just a little bit better here and there.
Sure.
Because you level up your character and you level up every item.
Yep.
And you have upgrades for all the items too. And you can find artifacts, which unlock more blueprints. So there's a lot of discovery. What I did that I didn't think I was going to do, and I just did it, and I'm so happy I did, because this, I think, has made the game 10 times better for me. I turned off the map.
Oh yeah. The pointer. Yeah, I did that too.
Yes, Bloodworth. This was huge. Okay, I started the game, and it was like telling me where to go, and it was just like pulling me along. And then it finally says, like, you know, you can turn this off in town if you want. It's not just like turn on, turn off, turn on, turn off. You have to do it in town.
Right. But once you make the decision initially, you can correct it.
Yeah. So I was like,
or switch it, not correct.
So I said, okay, I'm gonna turn it off and just see how things go.
Yeah.
Turned it off, and I just went and started digging, and it felt liberating and freeing.
I actually ended up.
There was so much discovery. Like it felt good. I was afraid to do it.
See, I have it on. I don't want to get lost. I actually have it on right now.
Yeah.
And I didn't really put too much thought in it. And so hearing
turn it off.
The joy that you're having with it
For sure.
It's definitely something I want to try out.
I actually ended up completing like 2 main objectives before I got the quest. Basically, to like go here. It's like, oh, okay. Well, I've got 2 out of the 3 of those things taken care of.
It's funny.
But and like worked my way like back to the beginning of the game and like using my later upgrades and like, oh, there's some stuff here that I missed and so
heck yeah,
pretty fun.
I recommend taking a chance. Try it with it off for a bit.
Yeah,
definitely.
I would say just try SteamWorld Dig 2 in general.
Yeah.
Please, yes.
If
this is your first time hearing about SteamWorld Dig 2, SteamWorld Dig 1 and SteamWorld Heist, also highly, highly recommended. These are some of my favorite indie games of all time.
Yeah.
They are so wonderful. Amazing games, and they're not very long. They're like 4 to 6 hours.
As I was playing it,
this is a little closer to 8 to 10.
8 to 10, okay, cool.
SteamWorld Dig 2, I was thinking to myself, this is... saying it does not, I think, get across the full experience, but it just is such a highly tuned game where I feel like I'm constantly discovering new things. I'm constantly like being pulled in different directions. They make it pretty easy to get lost in a really fun way. Like it just seems so well crafted and well made. And not that the studio hasn't made great games before, but this just absolutely seems like just that extra step up.
Yes.
And my question for the panel is, let's say we've got SteamWorld Dig 3. Where do they go from here? What areas could they improve on? What new additions would you like to see?
SteamWorld Heist had really cool mechanics. It was so different than SteamWorld Dig. It was a turn-based
It's a strategy
game.
Yeah.
I'd like to see it kind of combine, maybe. Get the SteamWorld Heist like lore in there. There are some connections, of the Steambots and all that. Get crazy with the story because I'm not done with 2, but it's setting up some stuff. Of course, 1 sets up some stuff.
Cool.
So maybe have 2 or 3 playable characters possibly. and maybe have a digging character like Dorothy or Rusty's back, and you can dig, but then also have like a mercenary character, and they can go down, and it's more like turn-based battles or something.
I
like somehow combining them both.
Of starting as a character who digs, but as you're digging, you uncover new characters, and then they join your party, and they can do different things. Yeah, that would be cool.
That'd be cool for 3.
Like that.
It's hard for me to get because I feel like maybe it's just a rumor. I feel like somebody said that they've gone out and said that there won't be more. So
there won't be more. Well, I guess. I did not know that, so that's on me.
So depressing.
But I guess then to modify that question is, what would you like to see next from the studio if it is not the same? If it is not SteamWorld Dig 3,
SteamWorld Heist 2.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, what I think's great is just how, again, going back to the vibes, like how good their art looks, and like the people they partner with for the music as well. It's like you could take anything, like just do anything, you want like another big, type of game that if it's another Metroidvania with a completely different aesthetic, but still with their qualities, and the fact that, they bet on that file size. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah.
And
200 megs.
It was like only 200, 300 megs to download this game. Just like, it looks so good.
Yeah.
How in the world? Like, I've had screenshots that are bigger than that.
Yeah. So last night, I finished playing through Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, and I think both of those games share a quality that I really admire that is very difficult to articulate. And I think it's very easy to dismiss love of Metroidvania games or 16-bit style games, which this is SteamWorld Dig 2 is admittedly not, but I think it's easy to dismiss praise of those games as simple nostalgia. But I think there's something that you can do aesthetically with a game. I think Animal Crossing does this very well, where it just, the way that they present it, the way that you are introduced into the world, the way that characters look, it just has sort of this invitingness to it.
It's so warm. It's so cozy.
It's a warmth, right,
Yep.
where it is exaggerated enough that your mind just goes, this is completely fictitious and fantastical, and I'm totally on board.
Absorbing.
And that is exactly what happens with SteamWorld Dig 2, and why I'm not surprised, Huber, that you sat down for 4 hours.
Yeah.
Because
Couldn't
it's just,
stop.
it's like SteamWorld Dig 2 is wrapping its arms around you.
Yes. Loving embrace.
Yeah. It's very good.
I recommend
everybody's golf kind of gave me that feeling too.
Totally.
Yeah.
Anyone watching or listening, seriously, when this podcast is over, go get SteamWorld Dig 2. Or 1, or Heist. Do it. I cannot hype it enough.
We're going in a completely different direction now. Couldn't be further from SteamWorld Dig 2. We're going to be talking about Destiny 2.
Destiny 2!
And the reason we're talking about Destiny 2 is you can talk about whatever you want. We can talk about the game in general, which we've done a little bit before. But it's a big milestone for me. I'd never finished the Destiny raid. And we finished the Leviathan raid.
We sure did.
Late Saturday night. Technically, Sunday morning, I guess, is when we
we finished at 11:30. Took us like 7 hours.
I don't remember.
Yeah, it was like 7 hours on the other guy.
Okay, yeah, it was very long. A big motivation was to get Kyle to say weekly hunts, but that's neither here nor there. But the raid was fantastic.
I can't wait to talk to you about this, Ben.
For years,
I'm so pumped.
I had heard that raids were the best part of Destiny, but just due to time or falling off of Destiny or whatever excuse I had, I did not finish a Destiny raid. And I really like Destiny 2 a lot. Yeah. And part of the reason I like Destiny 2 a lot, which is funny because a lot of people are complaining that they're bored of Destiny 2. They've kind of seen everything. They're running out of content. I think the ramp up in terms of loot progression is so much smoother in Destiny 2 compared to Destiny 1, especially at launch. And it made me want to keep going rather than just hitting that brick wall.
Totally.
I always felt like I had something to look forward to get me closer, or I was enjoying the things I was doing enough to get there. But going on to the raid itself, when I think back, so there are different wings of this Leviathan raid. And when I go back and I think about each individual wing, it's not that hard when you write it out on paper what you have to do. Everybody has a job and have to do that job. But the trick of it is, it's not about really shooting all that well. It's about communication. And the way that they use different mechanics to enforce that communication is fantastic. It's so good. And luckily, we had a huge advantage because you and then an Easy Allies community member, Hedgie, had already been through the raid, so you could tell us what was up. But seeing people learn, seeing people slowly understand their roles, going through the effort, like...
The well-oiled machine it becomes on like the 10th time.
That it becomes was absolutely fantastic. Like, it felt like an achievement because every person that was in there didn't feel easily replaceable. It's like, no, we actually need all 6 people. Yeah. It's not like 6 people is just an arbitrary number. It's like, you've done a good job of having everybody in that group do something meaningful. And if they're not contributing in the role, then everybody will fail. But going through it a second time and going through it with us, was it as absorbing and interesting to you that second time? And... were there any frustrations that you experienced with us? No.
It was just as fun. I mean, there's no surprise, so that's, you don't get the wonderment of the first time of like, whoa, the discovery, just like landing on the ship and seeing this giant structure. Like, it is a sight to behold for sure.
As somebody who's never done the raid before, I want to talk about that wonderment because I think when you have something like the raid, right, when you build it up, when you kind of tease players where it's like, you got to get to the end to get to this raid, it's important that it just doesn't feel like a souped up strike. That it doesn't feel like a slightly modified version of stuff that you've been seeing for the last however many dozens of hours. And when you get there, when you get on the Leviathan, and I don't want to ruin it for people who haven't experienced it, but it's so grandiose. It's like almost gaudy. Everything is just huge and exciting, and you feel like, yes, you made it. This is a place that looks special. It's like Endgame. It's just branded all across it, and it's really cool. Definitely.
And this is not a slight to Call of Duty or Battlefield, 2 franchises that I absolutely love and adore, but multiplayer in those games is still a team thing. Battlefield, it's like, all right, 32 on 32, but even Battlefield, when I'm like squatting up and we're rolling in a tank or like rolling in a Jeep together, you still feel like you're playing it alone in a sense.
Why do you feel like you're playing it alone?
Well, especially Call of Duty. It's like 5 on 5 or whatever, but you're running around. You don't have time to stop with your buddy. It's run down the hallway, shoot. Run down the hallway, shoot. Run over here and shoot. You don't have time to like sit back with a buddy and say like, hey, let's go do this. Like Battlefield, sure, the pace is a little slower. I can say, hey, let's go get in this like tank, or let's go get in this plane. Let's go this way. Like, you can still group up a bit. But the Destiny 2 raid takes teamwork. It takes cooperation, to me, to the next level. Of every second, you need to be on point with and communicating with your teammates.
Right.
Even, like I said, even Battlefield, when you're with a buddy in a Jeep, it still kind of feels solo in a way. I don't know if that's fair or not.
I guess something, not knowing anything about the raid before going in, something I was worried about is that it would just be different sorts of DPS checks, where it's like, okay, the challenge here is you need to do a lot of damage in a certain amount of time, and to do that, you're just going to need these certain weapons, so we're going to do that, and then we're going to shoot this way and use these abilities at this certain time. Like, just staggering out when you needed to throw grenades or use supers and everything, and that's fine, but I really loved that it's like, no, you've got to shoot these symbols at the right time, and the people who are running around in this cage have to jump through these holes and grab this hoop, and they have to call out what circle the thing. Like, it's so crazy.
It's mind-blowing mechanics.
It's not that it doesn't have anything to do with shooting or your abilities, but it is a whole new way to think about the game and how you move around within it, which is really cool.
And like, first-person shooters have limitations in what they can be and do, mechanically. It's a first-person shooter. You're gonna run around and shoot things 95% of the time, but like, for them to have such interesting ways to progress without shooting, I think is really awesome. Like, just the part when each person sees a different symbol, and those people need to tell the other people what they see, and you don't want to clog each other up on the microphones because you have like such limited time, so you're rattling off the order of like, I see this, I see this, I see this, okay, they get that.
Yeah.
It's really fun. It's awesome. But Ben, my question is,
yes,
does it change the way you view Destiny 2 as a whole?
It does. It does change the way that I view Destiny 2 as a whole, because I think without the raid, the way that I view Destiny is I'm shooting things to get a bigger number so I can shoot tougher things so I can get a bigger number, where it was just, this circular thing, whereas the raid is sort of this huge payoff that breaks the chain, basically, where it's like, I'm shooting things to get a higher number, to shoot things to get a higher number, to eventually get to this crazy, super unique... I mean, I don't know how similar it is to the raids, but to me, at least, it felt super unique, very mentally taxing. Like, it felt like this accomplishment, and even though I've done it now, I know that more is coming.
Yeah.
And if it can be as satisfying as this was, then I'm in. I am willing to shoot more things to get a higher number to get to that point once again.
Destiny 1 had 4 raids.
Yeah.
So, definitely more to come.
Do you think they were all pretty even in quality?
Yeah, people love Vault of Glass, I think, the most. And Taken King, I think. Those are like the 2 favorites. A lot of people are really big on Vault of Glass, which was the original.
Cool.
So
I wish I could have seen that.
It's all right. Destiny 2, you made
Destiny 2.
And it feels good, too. Like, I feel like Destiny 2 for me now is in a spot where it's like, okay, pretty much done with everything. The Halloween event, I'm definitely going to dip back into.
Yeah.
But now I can kind of just let it sit. I've accomplished everything I need to accomplish.
Right.
Expansion coming out in a couple months. Dive back in for that.
I actually want to touch on that, but before we do, Blood. So Destiny came out, huge game, obviously, a lot of controversy, but also a lot of people spending many, many, many hours in it. Destiny 2 coming out, similar sort of thing happening. I feel like, Blood, you don't have a lot of Destiny experience. Any reason for that?
I think it's just like, what Huber's saying. It's like, it is a game about grouping up with other people, and when the beta came out, like, I hopped in and I played through the beta with Ian, but yeah, for me it's hard for me to like schedule those blocks of time a lot, and especially like when other people that I want to play with are playing, and so it's just for me, like, a lot of the times, like, single player or multiplayer, where it's it is sort of me against everybody else kind of thing. It's easier for me to do because I just whenever I just turn it on and I'm doing that. I don't have to schedule a time for it or invest a huge amount of time to be able to do it, because like you had to play a long time just to be able to participate.
I had to play a long time just to be able to participate in the raid. Which I'm sure it's like nothing compared to what a lot of Destiny 1 players went through, but to me it felt like a reasonable amount of time.
Definitely.
Blood, when you played the beta, were there things that you liked or were interested in, either the world or the way that the way the shooting felt, anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it. I mean, I enjoyed just like the basic call out of like, I'm putting a healing circle down, like, get over here, and so yeah, like the basic elements of it, I definitely enjoy it. It's just again, it's just like on the giant list of things that I want to play. It's like I haven't really gotten to that point yet, and I would also feel like, like one or two of you guys would just like have to rope me in. It's like, all right, we're gonna do this now, so.
I bet Blood would be a perfect raid member. Like,
Warlock,
wouldn't get salty.
Nova Bomb.
Wouldn't get salty. Would follow directions extremely well.
Yep, perfect.
Reliable.
Oh yeah.
Huber,
reliable Blood for sure.
So there's been some noise, and I don't think it's wrong by any means, but I want to get your thoughts on it. Where people are like, man, we're done with SU. We've done everything. We've done the raid multiple times. We've done the Prestige Nightfall. We've done Trials, and for this game that we were looking forward to for years, we feel like we're running dry. Do you think that's a valid complaint, or how do you feel about how Bungie is handling Destiny 2?
It's really, really sticky question and a sticky answer. PvP to me has the benefit of having the longest legs, where you can play PvP. People still play Overwatch years later. Like, PvP is constantly.
I really like PvP in Destiny 2.
I really like PvP in Destiny 2. Trials of the Nine, out of control every weekend. It's like MLG, CSGO tournaments, out of control.
It is
professionals only, will make you weep.
It is butt-clenchingly tense.
It is and hardcore.
And long.
It's just cool seeing such a hardcore side of Destiny 2. So, I mean, PvP to me can last so long. But I get it. Like, Destiny 1 had the endless grind of trying to get the perfect weapon drop because weapons had randomized perks.
Yeah.
So you would try to keep getting it, until you get that perfect drop, and that could take months, People want Galahorn, like, gotta get that drop, gotta get that perfect drop. So it's like endlessly doing that. That isn't fun for me.
It's not fun for me either.
Like, I like that I am in a place now where I can just check back in to Destiny 2. Again, the Halloween event is coming up. They're definitely going to inject some life in there. They did faction rallies right now, which is cool, but it just ended today. It didn't really seem like it was nothing special. It was nothing really new. There were a couple new vendors, but there weren't any really new activities to do. I'm hoping Halloween adds like straight up missions. But yeah, I like it being in a place where I can just check back in now. And again, because there's no, you think of World of Warcraft where it's like this monthly fee. You better not run out of stuff in World of Warcraft because you're paying a monthly fee every month.
Right.
Like Destiny 2, yeah, you have to pay for expansions. That's a bust. But like, you paid $60 for a game and you played it for 100 hours. Like that seems pretty good.
Yeah.
Dishonored 2, Death of the Outsider is like $30 or $40, and that's like 7 hours.
I think it is always good to keep other perspectives in mind, though, and one of those perspectives that I think I do understand and I see where they're coming from is, for me, the way that Destiny 2 is structured is better. I want to do it because I feel like I'm getting more, like, there would be times in Destiny 1 where it's like, man, I've been playing for hours and I am at the same spot where I started.
Yeah.
And that doesn't happen to me in the same way that it did in Destiny 1 and Destiny 2. But I think there's something to be said of somebody who gets that perfect drop of that super rare thing, or has something that like 0.01% of people have, or the grind is structured in such a way that if this happens, you are extremely unique. And I'm not saying that doesn't exist at all in Destiny 2. It kind of does, but I do think there's a little bit more of a sameness amongst all the players. Do you think maybe they should put a little bit more of the grind back in, or not?
So they were onto something with the raid. They were onto something because the rooms switch, the rotation. So we started with the gauntlet. The time I did it, we started with the bathers. So the order of the rooms changes, Bloodworth. People were speculating after week 1 that there were going to be entirely new challenges within the raid, that it would be this like shifting challenge room, so every week you're getting something different. That was ambitious to think of, but this being Destiny 2, the possibility was there. I think that if they had done something like that,
that's a lot to ask.
It is a lot to ask, but at the same time, it's buying the game a lot of time and it's giving it longer legs because there's 3 challenges plus the final boss. Imagine if those were rotating like Indiana Jones at Disneyland. You go down like there's 5 tracks or whatever. You gotta wait in line every time, get back on, hopefully get a different one. So like, if they had a couple extra ones to throw in, maybe, you can't see everyone each week, so that's mixing it up. It's like, what are we gonna get this time? Having more of a surprise, having more of a reason to go back into the raid. Yeah. Me right now, I don't have a reason to go back in, Ben. I've done it twice. I've seen it all. I feel satisfied,
and I think that is the most important.
But the people that want to stick around, that would be incentive. Just adding a couple new challenges in the raid, because I'm trying to think again, putting it into perspective. I'm thinking of World of Warcraft Legion coming out. I'm thinking of MMOs. I'm thinking of Final Fantasy 14.
Yeah.
It's never enough.
It's never enough.
It's never, ever, ever.
I completely agree with you.
It's never enough, and I'm not saying that in a mean way.
No, it's not
at all.
Right.
It's like, never underestimate how fast the community will go through a video game.
Absolutely, especially when you are something is already a known quantity.
Exactly. Yeah. And when you're connected to the internet, when you are connected to the best players of the game in the world, you know,
absolutely right.
The headlines are team finishes Destiny raid in 5 hours.
Yeah.
You know, they're the best players in the world, but that's the headline that everyone sees. That's the narrative that's written. Whereas a normal group goes in there,
right.
It's going to take them 30 hours, you know, 20 hours. And it's like, it's never going to be enough. You're always going to run out of stuff to do. So when you compare it to Destiny 1, the week Destiny 1 came out, people were done in a day. Right. We beat the campaign. It's like, oh, now we just do strikes over and over.
Right.
So to compare where Destiny 1 was the month it came out versus Destiny 2, I think it's in a lot of
and how much is having each of those classes? Like, is it worth going through and like getting every one of those classes up?
Absolutely, but I think people have even done that, Blood, you know.
Yeah.
Because it is way advantageous to have all the classes max level. Mm-hmm. Case in point, the faction rally, you could, you know, subscribe to all 3 factions. You're going to win 100%. You can get the gun for cheap. You know, Xur comes and sells a piece of gear for everyone, so you can buy it for all your, you know, the platinum trophy. The platinum trophy is like so obtainable. Like the platinum is encouraged to, you know, finish everything in the game, get all the classes up. So, but I still think so many people have done that and finished it. Like, I totally get it.
As someone who's been highly critical of Destiny and even Destiny 2, I just want to say that taken as a total experience, I have really been impressed with what Bungie has done for this sequel. Mm-hmm. They have made me want to not only play and beat the raid, but keep playing.
Yeah.
I feel like when they announce that next thing, I'm going to be
Halloween,
excited about it. I'm going to want to play it. And just so personally speaking, in a year that is so crowded with things, I am shocked that I'm saying Destiny 2 is probably one of my favorite personal experiences that I've had this year.
Because there's nothing like it. Like, when we beat that raid, we screamed.
It
feels so good.
I mean, I don't want to ruin it, but how that fight ends and then where they lead you to and then the things that happen, it's just little treats.
It's so cool.
Little treats that are sprinkling all around. Yeah. But I do want to move on. I want to shake it up once again. Throwing it to you, Daniel Bloodworth, because you've been playing probably the quirkiest game on this list. Super Mario Land 2.
Yeah.
On the Game Boy.
Yeah.
How did this happen?
This happened through 6 golden coins?
6 golden coins?
Yeah. This happened through Blood Pact this last month.
6 golden coins!
It's one of our Patreon tiers where it's sort of book clubbish kind of thing where people... We kind of like group around a category, and then from that category I put some selections in for a poll. And Super Mario Land 2 like took that poll pretty easily, and so that was fun. It's been a while since I popped out the Game Boy because I used the Game Boy Player on the GameCube along with the Hori Game Boy controller, which has like a big D-pad and feels real good.
I watched a video, maybe it was Gaming Historian, where he was just praising that D-pad up and down. Yeah. I've never felt it. I'd like to feel it.
It's definitely among the best, right? Because it's basically shaped like a Super Nintendo controller, but then like the bottoms are angled out a little bit to give you a bit more grip.
Yeah.
And then the layout of the buttons is more like the GameCube face buttons. But for a Game Boy game, like A and B is all you really need, anyways.
Sure.
But yeah, so I played through and streamed almost the entirety of that game last week. And I did not expect that. Like, I figured, like, just thinking about it structurally, it's like, oh, you know, I'll get through, like, 3 worlds or something like that. Mm-hmm. And then, like, very quickly realized, like, oh, I'm booking it through this game. It is not as long as I remembered. But it's interesting to me just because it's, like, it has its own, like, different personality to it. Mm-hmm. You know, it's the first game that Wario ever appeared in. And he appeared as the villain. You know, You go up to the castle and Wario is like the shadow of Wario is like going back and forth. There's this,
because I haven't played this game in 20 years. I'm not even kidding. 20 years probably. I was a kid with my Game Boy when I played this. The only image that is burned into my brain is the big cauldron.
I know exactly what you're talking
about. At the end of Pumpkin Zone.
Yep, the big cauldron, and like you're bouncing on his head. Oh my gosh! And Wario is all big, like he's a little bigger. He's got the big sprite. Is it sprites back then?
Yeah.
Okay.
But go ahead.
I just wanted to say I love the way that they sort of cultivated Wario as this thing that Mario is dealing with and belongs to like this handheld version of Mario. It kind of made that line of Mario stuff, and then Wario stuff, of course, feel like special, like this kind of unique thing that you could get here. And it just had a slightly different vibe to it than Mario on the consoles, which I thought was very, very cool.
Yeah. Well, and there's some other differences, like since it's black and white, they did hearts instead of green mushrooms for 1-ups. You get the to fly, rather than having a raccoon tail, you have like rabbit ears. Yep. So you get a carrot and you have rabbit ears that let you fly, or let you like hop continuously if you hold the button at the right timing. And then, but again, going back to like the feel of the world, it lets you go to any of those zones in any order, which I think was pretty different.
Yeah.
For a Mario game at that time, like like you could do some branching path stuff in Mario Brothers 3 and Mario Brothers 4 or Mario World, but Mario Land 2 is just like, do you want to go to the space zone first or do you want to go to the aqua zone first? It's like, whatever, as long as you get all of those coins like that, you can do it however you want. If you want to like find a secret exit and like skip half of the macro zone, just go for it.
Thinking about Mario Land 1 as well, and the step up Land 2 is from 1, because
Mario Land 1 is almost like a Game & Watch game in terms of like how the sprites look and everything.
Everything about it just seems a little... I like Mario Land 1. In fact, it was the first Mario game I ever owned, but it's almost kind of like a bootleg Mario, where it's like, okay, this is like a scaled down, kind of crude, kind of janky, with like weird, horrible sound effects when you're shooting things, these subsections. It was like them trying to figure out Mario on Game Boy. At least that's what it felt like to me. But Mario Land 2, I mean, just these gorgeous, big sprites, looks absolutely phenomenal, very consistent and
very catchy
charming.
Music in a lot of places as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. How did you feel about the... It's been so long since I played Mario Land 2. How did you feel about the difficulty level?
So the difficulty level overall, like I said, I was breezing through most of the game. The funny things are there are like these, like I said, like the secret levels. Like you basically you find the alternate route out of a level, kind of like the ghost houses would be in Mario World, and you would get to a secret level. If you get to those secret levels and you just die, too bad. You're kicked out, and you've got to go back into that level from before, find that secret exit again, and get back to the secret level. Like, go through the whole process all over again.
Wow. Demon Souls.
So that's a little brutal. The other thing, Wario's castle is just insane. It's just muscle memorization to a T. I played through the majority of that game in 2.5 hours. Then I put another hour into Wario's castle.
Leviathan Raid here.
And then failed it. And I forgot about the fail state, because when you game over, you lose all your lives, the coins go back to the bosses. And then you'd have to go back through all the boss levels all over again just to be able to challenge Wario again. So that was where the stream ended, because Ian was here. He had to set up this whole new studio space.
That's brutal.
So, to me, it sounds like that is a problem, where you have very smooth sailing and then just this super high barrier where the punishment for failure is really severe.
It's super intense.
Yeah. Did you like the way that was presented? Was it overly frustrating? How did you feel about it?
I mean, it is frustrating, but it's also like it's satisfying when you like hit each of those benchmarks, because there's different floors to the castle, and so once you get through one of those floors, it's like, oh, great, I've got it, figured it out. There is, and I mentioned it multiple times during the stream, there is one very particular spot in that level that is just super hard to nail. And basically what it is there are these moving like propeller platforms, and this propeller platform moves under the platform you're standing on. And so so basically you've got to walk off of the platform as soon as that propeller starts moving out, and then you've got to instantly duck. And if you miss it, then you just fall into lava and you start the whole thing over again. So it's just like very super precise. And so I had the rest of that level down to where I wasn't taking any hits, was fine, got all the jumps. But that one platform, like, it would just keep coming back to haunt me. And then Wario himself, like his attack patterns are really hard to predict. And he'd jump up and he'd hit the ground, and the ground would shake so that you would be stunned. So you'd get stun locked and you'd get hit by him, or like when he'd hit the ground, he'd drop a chandelier at the same time. So you'd have to be like real. There's not a lot of space on a Game Boy screen.
Yeah.
So you'd have to be in like a very particular place, and then you'd have to like hop at just the right time to actually be able to hit him without getting hit by him, because his sprite is gigantic. You know, and then it goes on to this like wave 2. He's got the bunny ears, and then the last wave, the one that like I got 2 out of the 3 hits, like he starts like shooting fireballs out as well, and it's just like, oh. And again, like there's no checkpoints. You lose against Wario, you go through the whole castle all over again. And you go back to that stupid propeller thing all over, you know.
Did you enjoy Mario Land 2 more than you were expecting?
I don't know. I'd say I'd enjoy it more than I'm expecting. I've always liked that game, and like even though that castle is super hard, I've always like enjoyed it. It's got good music.
Okay.
Got a lot of things to figure out.
The last 2 frame traps have really demonstrated this to me. Reminded me that like you can, and you told me this, Blood. I wasn't aware that you could get Super Mario Land 1 and 2 on 3DS Virtual Console. I should have known that, but you can. So if you want, it's $3.99. You can play 6 golden coins on your 3DS right now, which I remember really liking as a kid.
Wait, say that again?
You can get Legend of the 6 golden coins on your 3DS right now for $3.99. 3DS Virtual Console. Look at, I just made this guy's day.
$4? I can go home and play it for $4.
Play it for $4.
I'm gonna play like the first level.
I gotta be honest though,
I remember just huddling up under the lamp with my brother playing this like 20 years ago.
Now you got a back.
I'll still take that Game Boy controller.
Oh yeah.
Over the 3DS or over the original Game Boy D-pad, because the original Game Boy D-pad was not brilliant either.
I just don't have that controller.
Yeah,
that's the only problem. But Kyle last week brought Tales Adventure, which I thought was a really good thing to bring from Tales Drop, and that's a Game Gear game that you can play on your 3DS. And just going through the pages of 3DS Virtual Console stuff, there is like a ton of classic favorites on there that you'd immediately recognize, but a lot of like, oh, I'm gonna give this a chance, or oh, I remember that kind of stuff. Like a really cool, slightly bizarre selection of games on there for pretty reasonable dollar amounts.
One thing I got, because when it came out I had no idea it would be something I'd ever like, was the Game Boy version of Picross.
Yeah.
And that just has become like a go-to airplane game.
I didn't get into Picross until Picross 3D, but man, that's really good.
Yeah.
The reason I got into it, the Giant Bomb guys kept bringing it up and ranting and rave about it, and it's really fun. But the Game Boy Picross is good.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, it's very much a matter of, elimination. Just like do the math and you figure out where it is, but it's
simple.
Good thing to have.
Simple.
Again, in that kind of situation.
You were talking a lot about pattern recognition, Blood, and I've got an entire game about pattern recognition that I've been playing, that I've been super excited about since I played it at an Xbox Live event like 2 years ago, and that's Cuphead. And I've been playing Cuphead. I'm not incredibly far. I think I've done like three or four bosses, maybe 4, and then 1 running on stage in Cuphead, and this game is delightful. It's delightful.
I can't believe this is out too.
And it's difficult, but it's not. I think the way people have been talking about the Cuphead difficulty, and I'm not going to get on here and say it's not hard. No, it absolutely is hard, but it is. The challenge is constructed in such a way where you really feel like you're learning every single time you die. Where and a boss might attack with something, and it might catch you off guard the first time, because these animations on some of these boss fights. And I want to be careful here, because I think a huge part of Cuphead's appeal is seeing these crazy bosses do the stuff that they're going to do. Early on, you're fighting all of these different giant vegetables, and they have these like different superpowers. And you have this like transforming lady who turns into a moon and shoots UFOs at you. It'll catch you off guard at first, but you're like, oh, okay, I can see the clear tell here. There hasn't been any sort of attack or anything where I haven't at least had something to try.
Yeah.
There was like a slot machine boss where I'm like, oh, I wonder if I should try this, and then that didn't work. But in that failure, I was like, maybe I should try this, and then that worked. And so it's just... It is constantly hooking you by being like, hey, you've got the tools to deal with this, and we're going to visually present it in a way where you can figure this out, and that's been really good. I also think the 3 hit point thing is extremely smart. So you can take 3 hits before you go out, and a lot of these boss fights I'm finishing with just 1 HP left, and it's just enough room for error so you're not like, man, I keep losing so quickly so often.
Yeah.
Like, you can at least get a little ways into the fight because of this 3 hit point thing. But it also raises the level of tension. I mean, when you see it blinking, you've got 1 HP left, and then you just barely, and it says knockout, and you're like, you made it through by the skin of your teeth. It's a great way of introducing tension. Something that I haven't said, I'm sure a lot of you who are listening to this show are probably, if you're listening to a 3-hour podcast about video games, you probably know what Cuphead is. But if you don't, it is this platforming, boss rush, run and gun. It really reminds me of Contra.
Yeah, Contra is a good example.
But it is done in this 1930s style where you'll have like these like characters with big rubbery legs, and you've got like old school Disney animation going on, and you've got like cracking film and all that stuff, and you've got like this big band soundtrack, like kind of these jazzy, really funky tunes. When you talk to the shopkeeper, he's like, welcome, but it's like crackling, like the audio quality is really bad, and it doesn't quite match up to his lips.
Nice.
Jones is out. He's out.
No, but it's great. I mean, it's appropriate to the time period, and you have like all of these very minor touches that add so much to the game. And playing Cuphead, you begin to realize how many things we haven't done a great job of experimenting with in video games. When you think about video game styles, you think about when somebody says, hey, we're making a fantasy game, like you probably know what that's going to look like. You're like, hey, there's probably going to be dwarves and elves in there. Hey, there's probably going to be warriors and mages. Like, yes, those games might be really interesting, but they're going to share so many common elements that we've seen a bazillion times. When you say, hey, we're going to have a game with guns in it, they're probably not super creative guns. It's like grenade launchers and machine guns and shotguns. Not that we don't love those things, but
not enough cerebral bores in video games.
Exactly. There's not enough cerebral bores in video games.
Bring them back.
And also, like there's like we could just do so many different crazy styles, and I think Cuphead does a lot of that. And not only says, hey, let's take that crazy style and make a very familiar game. Let's take that crazy style and make platforming, running and gunning wild and fun and fresh by using all the eccentric stuff that this style has to offer.
My question to you is, was the delay worth it? You know, originally this game was just supposed to be a boss rush.
Yeah.
Now it has levels.
Yeah.
Are these levels great? Are you happy with them? Can you, see the benefits of them adding basically half of a game into the game?
I think the thing that I should say, that I've seen echoed, but I haven't finished the game, so keep that in mind, is that it is still mostly a boss rush.
Okay.
The levels that I'm doing, like I've done like 4 bosses and 1 run and gun level, or like 3 bosses and 1 run and gun level, something like that.
So some levels you go to are just a boss?
Yeah, most of them.
Oh, okay.
It seems like most of them
once
are just
in a while
bosses.
you'll click it and it'll be like, get through this stage? Oh, perfect.
Yes.
Cool.
So, was the delay worth it? Yes, because to me...
That breaks it up.
It breaks it up a little bit, but I don't even know if I would have been that upset if it was just a boss rush. Because all of the bosses that I've fought so far are really wildly different from each other. Like, it is... I don't feel like, oh man, I'm just beating my head against a wall and then I have to go do something else. It's like, no, now I'm in a plane and this person's completely crazy. Oh, now I'm fighting like a boss that has 3 different forms, or oh, I'm fighting a boss that can, change shapes or whatever. So I would have been okay if it was just a boss rush, but I like the way the run and gun levels are presented, just the one that I've done so far, because the run and gun levels are where you get coins. And it's hard getting those coins, as you would imagine. They put them in tricky spots where you've got to be careful. But then those coins will get you new weapons, or they'll get you new supers, or things like that. And those can make a boss fight that is just driving you insane much, much, much easier. So I got some coins early on. I think you can also, like, I got 3 coins just by talking to somebody. So you can also talk to people in the overworld as you're selecting a level and maybe get more. It's only that person that is giving me coins, but my guess is that more people will give me coins. I got like this spreader shot that has way less range, but when things are falling from the sky, you can just point up and it will kind of get those things rather than having to like run over and try to shoot them. That's cool. And that kind of thing. But yeah, it's...
Dude, I'm going to Cuphead when I get home.
Cuphead is really, really great so far.
Hype.
I'm a little bit worried that like the end will be so challenging that it's not fun anymore, but right now it is very much like Super Meat Boy, where I die and there's not even a moment of anger or frustration, so I'm like, no, get me back in there. Get me back in there. I can do this. Another thing they do that I think is really smart, not only during the boss fights, but during the run and gun stages, is there will be different flags to let you know where you are. And so, like, during a boss fight, if you get to this flag, like, when you die, it'll say, you got this far. This is when this phase change happens. And so, when you die and you have that heartbreaking loss, and you see that you got 75% of the way through the fight, that's good incentive to get back in there, because you're like, oh, man, I was almost there.
Almost there.
And so, it's a very good psychological trick. Nice. But something kind of clever that Cuphead does during the boss fights is you might fight a boss, and it will do an ending thing much earlier on. So it'll mix it around.
Oh, wow.
So you're not, like, yes, there is pattern recognition, but it's switching up the phases to kind of keep you on your toes. Which sometimes makes it easier and sometimes makes it much harder, but I think is a good thing to keep those repeated tries fresh.
Nice.
Yeah. But I don't know. I keep trying to talk to the demons. I keep trying to get them to be a little bit more reasonable, and they're like, hey man, we're going to do a harder word. We're going to do a harder phrase so that next time you do Frame Trap, you won't have to interrupt this show with this part. But Huber, like, I really didn't think this was going to come up. I was looking through the games that we were going to talk about. I had no idea that this, like, why would it happen? Do you know what you said that got us caught in Frame Trap?
Shotgun.
No, something much more complicated than a shotgun.
Cerebral bore.
Oh, gosh.
Why would that come up? I don't know. Blood is over here. Almost never gets us caught in the frame traps. You get us caught in every time.
Every time.
How does that make you feel?
I think Blood got us last time.
Did you get it? I'm not giving Blood enough credit.
No.
I'm not giving enough credit. He's gotten us in the frame trap before.
The cerebral bore, though, is, I should have known.
You should have known. That is anything that... So, like, shooting a cerebral bore seems like it would cause a frame trap.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you guys to be a little bit more conscious of the things that you're saying.
Some of the death noises with the cerebral bore, too. Be like, V, and your characters would be like, brrr.
You know what the problem?
Because you'd be like the big lizard guys. You'd be like, brrr.
You know what the problem with that? It sounds like a dentist drill.
Yeah. Freaks me out.
It's kind of it works both ways. It makes like both, like the dentist drill
that
makes
is
the
freaking me out a
bore
little bit.
worse.
Yeah.
And cerebral bore makes the dentist drill worse.
Yeah, they do.
Just,
Next time I'm at the dentist, we're gonna be like, he's using the cerebral bore on me. I've got a little game for you today, but before we get started on that game, the sponsors have also been negotiating with the demons. In fact, our sponsors collectively picked cerebral bore. That's actually not true. They didn't do that. I'm just building the lore. But our sponsors do help us out. They're very important to Frame Trap, and they're very important to Caught in a Frame Trap. And we've got our two very reliable sponsors today. Our first one is Argos of War. It's an upcoming game. It's a first-person World War II experience that redefines the survival genre. Launching with an unrelenting 16-kilometer environment and featuring an innovative multinational warfare system, foraging, hunting, salvaging, bunker building, NPC and resource management, and a deeply customizable job system, your strategic and survival prowess will empower you and your brothers in arms to battle toward multiple paths to victory. Argos of War is more than just another survival game. It's a love letter to World War II and survival fans alike. Follow the development of the project at Argos of War on Twitter for daily updates. And our second sponsor is just Greg, TheDarkKnight Kettering. A cool dude who keeps on being cool. Thank you, Greg.
No
Thank
doubt.
you, Argos of War, for your support. We greatly appreciate it. And now, on to the thing that you're supporting. So the SNES Classic has been very popular. It has also been popular with the Demons of the Frame Trap realm.
I bet.
If you are unfamiliar with this is just a little trivia game that we play to break up the show. And in honor of the SNES Classic, all of these questions have to do with the Super Nintendo.
I'm so dead.
And they take slightly different forms. I did not know that you would be so dead.
Blood was going to wreck me.
Okay. Well, the first question, and to clarify the rules for everybody, please wait until all three options are read.
Okay.
And then when you want to answer, you must be the first to whisper HOTTAKE into your mic.
HOTTAKE.
Thank you, Bloodworth. Always very good at the instructions part. Question number 1. How many versions of the Super Nintendo were released in North America, not counting the SNES Classic? A, 1. B, 2. Or C, 3. This is also not including like different bundles and that sort of thing. Just like different versions of the console itself.
HOTTAKE.
Huber.
1. A.
Incorrect.
Do I do HOTTAKE
Yes.
now? Okay.
Do HOTTAKE.
HOTTAKE.
Yes.
2.
2 is correct.
What was the second one?
I actually have the second one.
What was
'Cause
it?
I had to
It was
rebuy
like
it.
it was like smaller and rounder.
Yeah.
And instead of the
the round
remember,
edges.
like the buttons were on the side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't have that big eject button in the middle.
Right.
Mm.
Which one of these is not a Super Nintendo peripheral that released in North America?
Ooh.
A, the batter up baseball bat. B, the Life Fitness Entertainment System. Or C, the Annihilator arcade stick.
HOTTAKE.
Huber.
A.
Incorrect.
Whoa, really?
I know it now.
This is a tricky one. Which one of these is not a Super Nintendo peripheral?
I'm gonna go with C, the
C
Annihilator.
is correct.
Yeah.
The Annihilator
Because I
arcade
know
stick
I know
was
B
not-
was 100%.
Yep.
I was like reading about that recently, actually.
Yep. B was 100%. Yeah. The Annihilator fight stick was just a thing that I made up.
Dang it.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
It reminds me of the game.
It reminds me of
the
the.
Sega Genesis giant Annihilator gun. Remember that?
Yeah.
What was it?
I think it was called.
I don't want to say mercenary, but that doesn't make sense. I forget what that was
Or
called.
the Menacer? Was it called the
Menacer.
Menacer?
I think it was the Menacer.
Yeah.
Well,
Have
you
the
had
right
the
letters in the word. Just mix.
Yeah.
question number 3. Early concept designs referred to the Super Nintendo as A, the Nintendo Entertainment System 2, B, the Mega NES, or C, the Rico.
HOTTAKE.
Huber.
C.
Incorrect.
Oh, I liked the way it sounded.
HOTTAKE.
Bloodworth.
A.
Correct! Bloodworth is 3 for 3!
I was going to say A until you said Rico.
Rico?
Yeah.
So the Rico was the chip inside of the Super Nintendo, yeah.
Nice.
The processing unit. Question number 4. What was the last game? Oh, I had so much fun making this.
Wow.
What was the last game to be officially published in
Wow.
North America for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System?
Okay.
Was it A, Bomberman World, B, Frogger, or C, Backyard Soccer?
HOTTAKE.
Huber.
C. Backyard soccer.
Incorrect.
Dang it.
Bloodworth. You're trying, though. I
I'm
appreciate
trying.
it. You're giving it a real effort.
HOTTAKE.
Bloodworth.
I'm gonna go with A.
Incorrect.
Oh,
You're both wrong.
Frogger?
It was
Frogger.
Frogger. So you remember the
Whoa.
PS1 Frogger?
Yeah.
There was a Super Nintendo version.
What? That's so weird.
Was the last game to be officially published for the Super Nintendo. All right. Question number 5. I do feel like on this one, Bloodworth might have an advantage, so I apologize here.
Bloodworth.
But, just because Bloodworth and I have talked about this before, I should have taken that into account.
It's okay.
Okay.
I need to score 6 points with like
But
one question
you
left.
can get in there with speed. Which one of these was not a launch title for the Super Nintendo in North America? It's our last question. Is it A, ActRaiser, B, F-Zero, or C, SimCity?
HOTTAKE.
Huber.
A.
It's correct.
ActRaiser.
He's on the board.
Yeah.
It was
Stopped
ActRaiser.
the clean sweep.
So ActRaiser came out the year of the Super Nintendo's release, but not it. The Super Nintendo North America, I believe, launched in August. ActRaiser came out in November. So pretty close, but no cigar. All right. Unfortunately, though, that is going to be 3 points to Bloodworth, 1 point to Huber. Got on the board.
5-1.
No, so you both missed question number 4.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
Both missed question number 4.
Cool.
ActRaiser is one I was a little surprised didn't make it.
Yeah.
Because it was one of those games that I feel like you, and again, for having it as that last question, it was sort of in the marketing reels and so like you just always saw ActRaiser, that centaur in like the first level it was there. It was in screenshots all the time.
Mm-hmm.
That was like Super Nintendo was here kind of a moment. And probably, there's just too many Square Enix games to throw in there.
Bloodworth, you are on a trend because you've broken us through the frame trap twice now, and both times have been excellent, highly remembered. The Tiger Knee is still talked about in the realm. And you have the honor of getting us out of the frame trap once again. Do you have anything in mind?
I think I'm just gonna have to go with a simple headbutt.
A simple headbutt. Well, please, when you're ready, we will see if the simple headbutt is enough to break us out.
Whoops! I should take my glasses off.
That was accepted for 2 reasons. Was not expecting the noise, which is very good, and the accidental glasses coming off the head makes that a clear winner.
Oh my gosh. Are your
Makes
glasses
that a clear
okay?
winner. Yeah, are they okay? That's an important question on this. Sitting here talking about kind of frame trap, but no, that was great. Thank you, Bloodworth. Thank you all for playing along with me, both panel and audience. That was a fun one to do.
Yes.
But we're moving on. Going back to Huber, throwing it back to Huber and Bloodworth. You've played this as well.
I'm gonna get a drink too. Yeah.
Let's talk about Life is Strange Before the Storm.
Ooh.
Yes. Life is strange. All I want to do is play Life is Strange Before the Storm episode 2.
I'm going to call BS on that. All you want to do is
Just
play
play
Red
like
Dead Redemption 2.
But
You got to pick one.
in terms of games that are out right now, like, I really want episode 2. I want to get back into this world.
Okay.
Life is Strange Before the Storm is really, really good, first of all.
Mm-hmm.
It feels good to be back with Chloe. It just feels great to be a fly on the wall in her life.
Yeah.
This game is this game is sad though. There is a loneliness to this game. There is a feeling of isolation. It's in contrast to, it's a colorful game. There's a lot of colors. There's the Arcadia Bay is cozy and bright, but still underneath it all, there's just this like isolating feeling that I haven't really been able to shake since I got through episode 1. I keep thinking about it.
So, as someone who has not yet finished, unfortunately, Life is Strange on episode 3, but what I've played of it, the qualities that you're describing can be applied to Life is Strange.
Absolutely.
It's a sad game. It is about young people dealing with very intense emotions, which sounds similar to what you're describing in Before the Storm. So what separates this? What makes this a different experience than what we got in Life is Strange already?
First and foremost, Chloe. You play as Max in Life is Strange, and I like to, when I RP, you're giving me information on the type of person Max is at the time. She's nice. I'm going to play it nice, But Chloe has more of an edge, she's pretty intense. She doesn't care about school. So you can play it that way too. The intro of the game you're trying to get in, Blood talked about this last time, is like you're trying to get into the concert. And again, Chloe has an edge, so I'm going to play it that way. I'm going to steal a t-shirt. I'm going to steal a beer and drink a beer. I'm going to get loaded. I'm going to buy drugs.
Whereas, Max is this really good-hearted, pretty normal, you totally believe would look out for others before.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
But, Chloe's headspace, the headspace she is in, is going to lead me to do things accordingly.
So, Life is Strange, I would say the things that it has going for it is how easily it gets you attached to its characters, how real the situations it's presenting feel despite the supernatural circumstances. Do you feel like Before the Storm is exploring interesting territory that feels new? And is it doing that stuff justice?
Yeah, the biggest thing obviously is Rachel Amber. She was only mentioned in Life is Strange. She's a huge part of that game despite not being in it. She's very important to the story. So it's really nice being able to get to know her and, hang out with her as Chloe and see what that whole story is all about. And sometimes prequels can be boring because you're like, I know exactly what's going to happen. But in this case, it's super interesting to get to know her, and it's also really scary and haunting knowing what eventually will happen by playing through, I've already playing through Life is Strange, so I'm not feeling any redundancies or, apprehension of it's a prequel, I already know how it's going to end, spoilers, no, it still feels surprising and meaningful.
For both of you, playing this episodically, having gone through episode 1 and now waiting for episode 2, is there any part of you that wished you had waited until the full thing was out?
No, I love, Life is Strange was one of those games that really got me all in on board going through games, episodic games as they come out. It's similar to TV. There's a lot of shows that people binge watch. People love binge watching. I'll binge watch occasionally, Gundam 8th MS team, binge through it.
Yeah.
But I prefer the week-to-week, or in terms of episodic games, when they come out, because now I have been thinking about episode 1 for the last week.
Time to process.
Exactly. I've been processing it. I've been yearning to just get back to Arcadia Bay. There's just... Bloody, you pointed this out also there's a lot of moments where you can just stop and take it in.
Yeah.
Just Kyle Bossman taking a knee, it just feels good to be in this world, and it's just a game that makes me emotional and a game that I really like to think about, and I just cannot wait to get back to.
You feel the same way, Blood? You enjoy taking it as it comes?
Yeah, I think if anything, if you're gonna wait till the end, I would still give yourself a good day between episodes, just because
they're meaty.
There's a lot that happens. There's a lot to think about.
There's 3 episodes plus a bonus episode if you got the deluxe edition, a bonus mini one. So it's just one of those things where you just get so much, so many intense moments and things. Yeah. It's just you want to stop for a second and process it and think about what's happened, and think about if the way you're making decisions is the way you want your story to go, and things like that. And so I think having that time, that breathing space to go through. This game affects me in real life. I always talk about that with Life is Strange. There was a moment, I don't smoke cigarettes, but there was a moment where Chloe goes in an alleyway to just smoke a cigarette. If you want to, you can do it. She's just smoking a cigarette. Inner monologue, thinking about life, and she's just smoking, and you decide when to stop, and she's just smoking it. And I'm sitting there, and I'm just watching it, listening to her, and I just, she's done talking, but I just think in my head, I just pause life for a minute or two. And I'm with her in this moment of take a breath, you know, slow life down, slow everything down. Enjoy your moments. This game, just episode 1 so far, has made me want to take a breath and enjoy moments in life more. You know?
Huber, one of the things I want to get your take on is it's a gameplay mechanic kind of a thing. The graffiti.
Yeah.
What do you think about graffiti?
So is this graffiti? Are you applying it at specific points? Can you do it at any time?
Yeah,
it's like an unlockable. Like you find the thing to graffiti in an area and you scribble whatever, and then it gets
sort of
put
like
into
the pictures?
It's exactly like the pictures, except you can choose. You get the choice of two things to graffiti. You can do one of two things each time you find them. I like it. It's very Chloe. It really sold me when I found David's toolbox. I was like, this is so Chloe. Just marking this up. Like, yeah, it gets me in the world more. It seems natural for her to do it. But I also really liked the pictures. You know, that was cool. A cool mechanic for Max, the photographer. You know, catching the birds. It's a little more poetic versus Chloe, just like, you know, getting some vulgar graffiti.
Did you feel similarly about it, Blood?
I wasn't into that, so there are certain points, you know, like there are points where I could see like getting back at somebody, but there are other points that are just gonna deface this random thing for no good reason. You know, it just
sure.
Like it didn't resonate with me very much.
Right,
Yeah.
there wasn't compelling reason for the character or for the situation for that to happen.
Yeah, it just kind of felt like, okay, here's a checklist to get my achievements, because they are, each one is tied to achievements.
Yeah.
I can imagine that in October 2017, an episodic game sort of feels like an unintentional gift, where you can look forward to a bite-sized chunk that will leave you wanting more, and a lot to process, instead of a big brick that you have to get through.
Yeah.
Sure.
It's really good. I love it.
So it is a worthy next step for Life is Strange, something that I know meant so much to you personally.
So far, yeah. And again, it's only 3 episodes, so, you know, 1 down, 2 to go.
Do we know when the next one's happening?
No date yet. I keep looking every day. Nothing. Okay. Nothing so far. Hopefully soon. But yeah, you know, there's always a little apprehension with prequels. They can be lazy or weird or
just feel unnecessary.
Right.
Yeah.
And the stories that it is telling are definitely a great addition to the Life is Strange lore.
I've got 2 more games to talk about, but the first one that I'm going to discuss is one that just to me keeps getting better and better, and it's surprising me in a lot of ways, is Monster Hunter Stories. Yeah. So Monster Hunter Stories is a Monster Hunter spin-off where it's not like Monster Hunter. It's not this real-time combat. You're taking down these huge beasts. It is a turn-based role-playing game where you're sort of you're called a writer, and you are bringing these monsters. They call them monsties in
Monsties.
They call them monsties. Yeah.
Wait, a writer like Alan Wake, or a writer like a horseback
like
rider?
That. Yes.
Okay.
So you are a writer as opposed to a hunter
of
monsters, and it's all about these different monsters and the different things that they bring to you both in and out of battle. And I really love, my absolute favorite thing about the game is how they're sort of taking these large, unwieldy beasts, how they're representing their differences in a turn-based RPG. And so the way that it works is you'll go and you'll get a monster, and I'll talk about that acquiring process a little bit later. But when you bring them into battle, it is a rock, paper, scissors sort of combat style where you'll be fighting against beasts, and they'll have certain tendencies. So power beats technical attacks beat speed, and speed beats power attacks.
Speed beats power, unacceptable.
Speed beats power. So you'll be running into a monster that wants to do a lot of big, powerful attacks, and then you need to figure out, okay, this is this monster's tendency, or this is its pattern. And it will do a power attack, then it will do something else. Maybe it'll do like a trio attack, like some sort of special attack you need to hit, and then it will go and it will do a speed. So you need to figure out this pattern, and then you need to pick moves that counter it. And all of your monsters, at first, you don't have direct control, basically. So they might want to do a power attack because they just like doing power attacks.
Relatable.
You can tell them to do specific attacks, different special moves, like maybe a fireball or something. But if you do that, it takes away from your kinship meter. And you build up your kinship meter by you doing attacks, because you can do power attacks, speed attack, technical attacks as well with your own weapons, by picking attacks that counter your opponent's moves, and having your monster pick moves that counter your opponent's moves. If you both pick the right counter, if both the rider and the monster pick the right counter, you'll do a dual attack where you'll both like come around and do a pincer attack on the monster. It looks really cool. The animations overall are absolutely fantastic. For continually doing the right thing, you'll build up this kinship meter. If you get it up all the way, you can hop on your monster, kind of combining your health bars, and you will get a super attack, basically, where you and the monster are going in and attacking together.
Wow.
And you can do it right away. You can do a level 1 kinship attack, basically. Or, again, if you keep guessing, you can build up that meter a little bit more and make that super attack even stronger. And so why I like this combat system so much is there's a lot of sort of guessing where you have to kind of go, am I going to go all in with my monster? Is it doing the wrong thing? Am I bringing in the right monster? Because sometimes it's unpredictable. Sometimes you'll have a dude that normally does power attacks for whatever reason is doing a technical attack.
Yeah.
And so do you want to correct that by telling them to do something else? But if you do that, you're taking some super meter away. And so it's making these monsters feel a little bit unpredictable, which I feel like is very important for these creatures that are supposed to have some sort of a degree of wildness to them. But it's giving you enough control that I feel like I can easily get through fights, and I'm still applying some sort of strategy to it, which I think is really cool. And just like I was saying, those kinship attacks are so good. One of my favorite ones, the Aptonoth, this herbivore monster, what it does is it like runs at the enemy, it slips on a banana peel, and it's like butt slams down on the monster. And it's just completely adorable, and it's something that I think is really great for Monster Hunter stories as a whole. If you are not familiar with Monster Hunter, even though like gameplay wise this won't give you a good representation of Monster Hunter, it might very much endear you to the world. Everything is adorable. I mean, when you're doing cutscenes, you've got this like big burly man named Dan who's laughing, who's very boisterous, who I think you would love. You have this cat following you around with big eyes and a big smile. Nice. And even your own created character is very animated as well, and very endearing. Two things that I don't like about the game really quickly are, I think it's a little bit too easy, and I think part of the reason it's too easy is when you or a monster gets knocked out, you have 3 hearts. One of those hearts will get taken away, but then you'll just be back up to full health. And because you have health that you can restore with potions and herbs and things like that, it's pretty easy to not lose a heart. But if you do, you've got like 3 full extra life bars for both you. The heart system, I believe, is shared between the rider and the monster. I believe that's correct. But it's very hard to get a game over, basically. But despite that, the battles are still fun. The story, however, the actual narrative, beyond the charm and cuteness of it all, is pretty thin. There is this like malevolent this like blight, basically. Essentially, it's just this malevolent blight is kind of taking things and corrupting them. And you, as a young writer, want to go out and see as much of the world as possible. It just feels like it's dealing with very basic things. Maybe that will get a little bit more complicated as I go through the game. I've put I think 7 to 10 hours, something like that, in so far. But I'm really enjoying it so far, and it's good. As both of you, I don't think either of you are super into Monster Hunter or haven't given Monster Hunter a chance. This is more of a turn-based buddy up with your monster, go through a story, more appealing to you?
Saving myself for weekly hunts.
All right, that's going to be our frame trap. Thank you all for watching.
Saving all of my Monster Hunter hype and energy.
So when you can
for
get there,
January 25th at 9 p.m.
Yeah. How about you, Bloodworth?
Yeah, I think I probably still would see something like Monster Hunter World more appealing, or I mean, even the traditional Monster Hunter, I would probably have gotten more into if they just beefed up a little bit more story, or like connected the world so you don't have this weird loading screens in between and stuff a little bit better.
That is something that I like about Monster Hunter World, and something I said I would touch on, but I haven't so far, is that the environments that you explore are very big, and these monster dens are popping up all over the place. And how you get new monsters is you have to go into these dens.
That's cool.
Yes. And
is that for all the Monster Hunters or just this one?
For this one, because you are not hunting the monsters, you're not killing them. You're trying to build up the stockpile, basically.
Cool.
And so you want to go, and you want different types of monsters because they have different abilities both in and out of combat, but some of the ones that they have out of combat are really useful. Because in order to upgrade gear, you need certain materials, and like one of the monsters you can scan for herbs and things like that, and so it just makes it so much easier. And so it's like, I want to make my life as easy as possible. I'm going to go and I'm going to get these monsters, and when you go into these dens, you get to the end and you get to this egg nest. And at the egg nest, sometimes a monster might be there sleeping, guarding its eggs. Sometimes it may not be, but there's oftentimes materials that you want in this den. However, if you're picking them up, your little cat buddy will say, hey, that's cool, but don't get too greedy, otherwise it could cost us. Or when you go up and you pick up an egg, you might get one that you're like, oh, I know this egg is no good. I'm going to roll again and try my chances again. The more time that you spend around this egg nest, the higher chance that a monster could come in or wake up and attack you. And, it might be a slightly more difficult monster, and so it's just a little bit of risk there. That there have been times where, I've gotten an egg and I've had to run out of the cave and things like that. And so that's pretty cool. And then you go and you have to hatch the egg, and you tap to give it some extra stats. You either tap or mash the button, and that's pretty cool.
Nice.
But I think the game does a good job of kind of connecting everything, where it's like, okay, I need better gear to get through these boss fights and things like that and complete these side quests. And as I'm completing these side quests, I'll get materials that I need, and I'll get new monsters that will, much like Monster Hunter itself, there's a very good, very satisfying, large feedback loop that you're going through. Nice. And because materials are so valuable, I find myself exploring a big part of this world, not just running from objective point to objective point. And because materials are so valuable, I feel incentivized to do side quests, all that sort of stuff. But I have a question for our audience. If you are playing Monster Hunter Stories and you are, let me know your experience with Monster Hunter, because I think I really like spin-offs like this, when an action game makes a strategy game, or when a strategy game makes an action game or something. Just a different genre of game, I think, can resonate to a bigger number of people or get a different audience into, the series. And so I'm curious, if you are playing Monster Hunter Stories, if you're liking it, first of all, and what your experience with the series is, and if it's making you interested in playing more Monster Hunter. So always good to know. Always reading the comments, so
nice.
We can talk about that. But moving on, we're going to be talking about Dark Souls 3,
right?
Which Bloodworth is playing for the first time.
Yeah, I apologize that I'm not talking about either Forza 7 or Battle Chasers Night War, both of which I have downloaded and have not picked up a controller for. I really wanted to be able to talk about one of those today, and I wasn't able to. But I did, thanks to Brad Ellis, start Dark Souls 3 finally. And I'm having to stream through that whole game. And,
in costume.
I'll have to see what Kyle charged me. I don't think I have to do the whole thing in costume, but okay. I think I've gotten away with I can do the first and last streams.
Can't summon people to help with bosses.
Yeah, I cannot summon other players, but I'd never really done that anyways in my prior Souls playthroughs.
Nice, doing it right. You can summon phantoms if you need to.
Yeah, what I would typically do was I would kill a boss, like in Dark Souls 2 specifically, I would kill a boss on my own and then like jump back into it with other people. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So got started on Dark Souls 3. Got in there, got my button checks, and trying to remember the mechanics, and like hit that square button. It's like, oops, I just went my first Estus, and
playing Bloodborne last, and you obviously finished Dark Souls 1 and 2. Does it feel like? Do you still have that feeling of, this is a Souls game, or are you yearning for the speed of Bloodborne? I know when people came into Dark Souls 3 after Bloodborne, it was like, whoa, this is...
And does it still feel
slower than I
intimidating?
remember.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does it still feel like? Does it feel like business as usual?
Yeah,
or does
that's
it
my
feel
question.
like a threat?
Yeah.
I mean, it always, to me, like, there's always, like, every time I'm about to enter a room, I stop and, like, start looking, turning the camera, like, all right, there's somebody
Lurking.
in the other. And then one of the things with the beginning of Dark Souls 3 is you have all these, like, guys kind of, like, worshiping the totems or whatever is going on there. And so I'm just like, I just got to kill these guys, right? Because if I don't, one of them is going to hop out and get me. So, like, just, it's like, even though they don't seem to be aggressive, I don't trust them.
Trust them. Trust no one.
What I do think, though, is I feel like, I don't know if it's just a matter of the PS4 controller being a little tighter than the PS3 controller or what, but I feel like it's easier to do what I intend to do with things like, like doing the little kick or like running and jumping. And I feel like even though the controls are essentially the same, they feel more refined in that sense.
Definitely.
It's because you played so much Witcher 3. Oh, burn. Just kidding.
That burn is just so old at this point that it doesn't
Had to
even
go there.
register.
Um,
But the last one you played before this was Bloodborne, correct?
Yeah, I played through most of Bloodborne. I unfortunately got through the very beginning of Cainhurst Castle, and then I don't know what happened.
Life happened.
Just busyness happened. Yeah.
Did you use the Kirk hammer in Bloodborne at all?
Not very much.
But you used it at least once?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I've used it at least once. I always would like to try out a weapon, and that's one of the funny things because I'm doing the pyromancy build, and they start you off with strength and an axe, and then all the weapons I've been picking up are dex weapons with big X's over them. I'm oh, okay, I'm not going to use that weapon right now. I'm not going to use that weapon. So I just powered up the dex to 10, so I can use try out some of these other weapons.
Nice. Yeah, there's a lot of weapons. Dark Souls 3, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
But yeah, well, that's one thing I've always felt like Dark Souls had a lot more weapons than Bloodborne does. And then I just got a kite shield that does the 100% defense thing, I guess.
For physical?
Yeah, when you hit the R2 button rather than parrying, it puts you in this other altered state. So I'm not entirely sure the best times to use that, but that's interesting. I'm also trying to remember, because now you have the blue mana bar.
Yeah.
What did we have? We just had uses on pyromancy and stuff,
Yes.
right? Yeah.
You had uses, so every spell had a different number of uses that you could do, and you had so this is going back to the Demon Souls style where you had mana, and now you have an Estus for that.
Yeah. Well, and that was the other thing that was interesting too, is that you can actually determine how much Estus goes into each flask.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that'll be a thing to experiment with. A lot of this stuff, it's just crazy to think about. I'm going to be doing all this live.
Yeah.
Sorry, you have chat
experimenting
helping
with
you.
stats
They've
and
got
stuff,
you.
but chat is all over the place.
Yeah.
They're yelling
I came in
back
sure.
and forth.
That's
at the
true.
end, and you seemed to be doing pretty well.
Yeah.
It didn't seem to be too frantic, too desperate, I guess. But Huber was asking you, do you miss anything from Bloodborne, the speed or recovering health when you're attacking?
It's been long enough since Bloodborne that I don't feel like I'm comparing the two really.
Sure.
It's I put a lot of time into Dark Souls and Dark Souls 2, so it's
coming
it's
home,
getting back into that, and using the shield and everything. Just it feels natural.
How do you feel in terms of, since you're still in the beginning, how the world is set up, / the tutorial area / the tutorial boss? How do you think the game kind of pulls you into its world in comparison to past Souls games?
I think it does a better job of explaining and giving you opportunities to use some of those mechanics that aren't as maybe not as obvious. Stuff like parrying and backstabbing and stuff that was all there at the beginning of the first Dark Souls as well. But I don't know. It just feels like, okay, here's the hint to how to do this, and then here's an enemy to try it out on. That's
facing the other way. Yeah.
So I feel like that's all worked out pretty well. And it's not like Dark Souls 2 had that crazy crisscrossing cave system before you got to the main Majula.
Yeah, I really didn't like that. I mean, I like Majula a lot, but
it was cool, but it was also, it didn't necessarily feel like a tutorial area because it was actually kind of difficult to get through just that with all the alternate paths. And I think there's like some like big enemy that you can run across and get like destroyed.
The thing that you find there though is pretty cool.
Yeah.
How did you feel about the boss? I always screw up his name. It's like Idrix Gundyr. Something.
Oh yeah.
The knight. What did you think about that fight?
That was a crazy Bloodborne type of surprise. I didn't expect him to just suddenly transform.
So cool.
I actually think that first boss fight is definitely harder than the Asylum Demon in Dark Souls 1.
Really?
I think so.
Yeah.
Maybe because I was Pyromancy, I've got a little leg up.
Oh, maybe. I didn't use Pyromancy against him. I just used melee. But I thought he was
challenging.
A little bit more aggressive, I guess. Attacked a little bit more frequently. I don't know.
Dark Souls 3, holding no punches.
Sure. But so far, based on your experience with it, I can understand your hesitation doing it all live, but do you feel just as excited to play through it as you did past Dark Souls games?
Yeah, I'm definitely interested. It's just a lot of the stuff in terms of playing live is not so much about like, oh, I'm gonna have to fight this boss 50 times or whatever before I actually get it. It's more of, okay, I want to like look into the stats and figure out like what kind of weapons and stuff like that, and it just always feels sort of like that pressure of the dead air that I'm not actually really doing anything. You're just staring at me, looking through these obscure inventories and trying to figure out whether this item does anything I care about. So
cool. All right, well, the last game on our list for today is one that I've been playing and I'm very excited to talk about. Like Bloodworth, I also have to issue an apology because I wanted to spend more time talking about more detailed impressions on Divinity Original Sin 2, but I'm nowhere near as far as I want to be in Divinity Original Sin 2. And I've been getting distracted by other games. I really wanted to get through the raid, and I've been busy with other stuff. But that's totally on me. That game, Divinity Original Sin 2, seems absolutely phenomenal, and I want to put more time into it. And I want to get that review up so we can tell people why it's so amazing in a more structured and considered way than just gushing about it on a podcast. But I had to take some time to play some Danganronpa because I really care about this series a lot. And I was worried about 3. I was worried about 3 for some reason. I didn't like some aspects of the Danganronpa 3 anime that they did, where they kind of wrap up the Hook's Peak Academy storyline. I guess I was worried. This is a series that's all about the killing game, and that is putting students in this school prison and then incentivizing them to kill each other. I think when you have that set up again and again, regardless of the twist that you do in it, that it can start to feel a little bit stale, start to feel a little bit predictable. The shock that you're going for, we've seen before. Not true. I would say, so I've done the prologue and then the first chapter, which doesn't sound like a lot, but actually takes quite a while to get through. So I've put some hours into it. I've done the prologue and the first chapter, and even in that chunk, Danganronpa 3, in one specific instance, has like shocked me almost like the number one spot for this whole series.
Whoa.
Wow.
It does something in a way that I think is really cool, and I don't want to detail it too much, but what I want to praise about it is I feel like it takes the unique aspect of being a video game and playing your mind. The fact that you are controlling this game, how it does that twist makes it so much more impactful. And I think that is really, really cool. That my jaw dropped and I was like, whoa, that came out of nowhere. Having played Danganronpa 1, Danganronpa 2, doing the Ultra Despair Girls, watching the anime, that it's like, whoa, this came completely out of nowhere. That's really cool. That's very clever. And it didn't feel cheap. It felt like just that perfectly executed twist that was done so well. And I think the other thing why Danganronpa V3 doesn't feel stale is because of the style. It is just so eccentric, so crazy. After we shot Easy Anime, I told Brad and Huber, I want to play this song for you. This like kind of
so
bopping
weird
song where it's going da 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 da, but then you have this guy going like, he is all that remains. And
Yeah,
it's like
it
it's just
was
really
bizarre.
creepy, kind of like strange voiceover, and you're
So
like, this is
strange.
kind of freaking me out.
Yeah.
And Brad said something that I think is totally true about Danganronpa, is that it reminds him of Dreamcast era weirdness. And it's funny because I think Kodaka, the writer behind Danganronpa, recently talked about Illbleed, a game that I did not play on the Dreamcast, but is apparently regarded for just how batshit insane it is. And Danganronpa is just so batshit insane. You have these characters that are doing things. You've got like this person who calls himself the ultimate evil dictator, and you don't know if everything he's saying is a lie or not. But then his feelings also get hurt a little bit. It's just crazy. And I think it's really easy to do crazy. I think it's really easy to just throw a bunch of random shit in somebody's face. But I love, like, and Fooly Cooly, I think, is something that we've talked about that shares this quality, where it is random and you don't know what to expect, and there are a bunch of weird turns, but there's something deeper there. There is a storyline. There are themes that it's talking about. And this craziness, this randomness, just makes those themes more explosive, or shines a light on them in a way that you wouldn't expect, and therefore, like, makes you more want to dig into it. Because it's presenting it in a way that you never could have imagined, it makes the very topic itself way more interesting than it has any right to be. And I think that's something that Fooly Cooly does. I think that's something that weird, crazy Dreamcast games did in maybe a less substantive way in some instances, but I think makes Danganronpa very much worth playing. I talk a lot about Bayonetta and my love of it, and I think part of what I love about Bayonetta is just how absolutely batshit insane its world is, but it is a world that feels like it has so much thought put into it. That is what Danganronpa is, and I love that now Danganronpa, you can play Danganronpa V3 on your PS4 right now.
And 1 and 2.
And 1 and 2, you can also
PS4
play it on Vita.
version.
These are games that were relegated to just the Vita before, but now you can play them on PC, you can play them on PS4. And I think this is a series, I think sometimes people get scared about how anime it is, whatever that means, or how weird it is. But I've had a couple of people on Twitter reach out to me, and they said, hey, I wouldn't have given this a shot, or, you know, I checked this out because of how you talked about it. And I think kind of like Life is Strange, the visual novel aspect of it being broken up between these class trials and these investigations is a nice change of pace from a lot of the other stuff that you could be playing. And don't let its weirdness scare you away. I really think there's something there. And you played a little bit of 1, and
I got like
into
8
that.
hours into 1 and I absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
And then just put it down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But,
love it.
Danganronpa V3, what I love saying is that if you get into the series, I'm not going to tell you that it drops off at 2 or it drops off at V3, at least so far, whereas V3 right now has me by the balls by this crazy twist that I was not expecting. And I actually prefer, not everybody feels this way, but I prefer Danganronpa 2, Danganronpa 1, and the way that game ends is just absolutely insane as well. But very, very cool. I wish I could talk a little bit more in detail about specific things. I'm hesitant to even describe characters in too great detail, because I think meeting them and figuring out their different quirks is part of the fun too. So I don't want to go too far. Maybe once a little bit more time has passed and I've finished the game, we can talk about it in greater detail. But right now, Danganronpa V3 is very cool, and you should give it a shot.
Give it a go.
Do you know what else you should give a shot, Michael Huber?
What? A lot of stuff.
A lot of stuff. Wait a minute, before we go on, that was just me kind of monologuing Danganronpa V3, but you've played Danganronpa 1. You said you loved it.
I enjoyed it so much.
When are you going to get back to it?
I was going to try to get back to the PS4 versions, you know, because so much time has passed now. With 1, I don't remember anything, so it'd be weird to just jump back right in.
Yeah.
Want to get to the PS4 versions, but I still have Silver Case that I want to play even before Danganronpa.
Do you want to play Silver Case because of Suda?
because of Suda, because of the story content.
Yeah.
Like murder mystery. I know Danganronpa is similar style, but more of a detective.
So what I want to say about Danganronpa, especially knowing the stories that you love, like you really care about the Resident Evil story, right? And I think something that you care about with the Resident Evil story is sort of this big, broad conspiracy that just keeps going deeper and has new wrinkles with every game. Where you got to in Danganronpa, you just sort of saw this killing game. You saw the relationship between these characters who were put in this horrible situation. What is really cool about Danganronpa is why they were placed there, the big conspiracy going on, the different factors at play.
So mysterious. What's happening?
The more you learn about that mystery, the more that I think you individually would get wrapped up in it. Okay. And I don't want to spoil that stuff because it's really fun to uncover.
And one isn't even very long.
I don't remember how long it is. Like 15, 20, something like that. I don't remember exactly.
And they're not hard games either.
Kind of long to me, but
sure, especially now. But I mean, it's not like 50 hours.
Totally.
Sure.
That's what I thought. That's why I played it, because it wasn't 50 hours.
Yeah.
I always thought it was long because it was a JRPG anime looking game.
Yeah. Do you think there's a chance that you'll get back to it before the end of 2017?
Every time I think I'm caught up on games this year, like 5 more come out, so I really don't know.
Yeah, and I don't want to pressure you. It's just because you expressed enthusiasm.
It is definitely high on the list. Like,
cool.
I have not forgotten about Danganronpa. I have not written it off. I would love to get back to the first one, especially now that the PS4 is like a nice double pack.
Yeah.
I just don't know when I'll have time.
Blood, have you ever played a visual novel?
Yeah, I played a lot of the ones that were on the DS, like Trace of Memory and Hotel Dusk. I forget what it was called. One of the people that used to be at Sing, I guess had like formed another company and released a game like last year, I think it was, on the 3DS that was kind of Hotel Dusk like. But it ended up not having like a lot of like budget behind it, and so it was like surprisingly short. But yeah, I've certainly gotten into some of those games and enjoyed them.
Do you know anything about Danganronpa? And if you do, does any of that make you interested or not interested in the series?
Oh, it's definitely something that I find interesting. I guess I'm just never really into the killing game, battle royale kind of setups. I know that, like you say, like there's a lot that more that goes into that. That's more surprising.
Definitely, but the killing game is absolutely the framing of each of the 3 games, and it is a big part. These kids murdering each other. What about that setup kind of puts you off?
I mean, it's just that weird. Yeah, it's just that weird setup of like
kids killing each other.
People figuring out who's.
And now it's been done so many times too. Like
it has been done so many times, and I think if it was just that.
But there's more there.
When you figure out the reason this is happening and who's behind it and all of that stuff, I think it's really cool. And the ways that these people get executed are just so outlandish and hard to describe. But specifically, Blood, I would want to get your take on the soundtrack. Because for Danganronpa 1 and 2, just those 2, I went out and I bought the soundtrack because I couldn't get these songs out of my head. And they're really good and they're really different than a lot of the other stuff. Like it's got some rock, it's got some pop, it's got some jazz, it's got all these different like eclectic styles kind of mixed into it that I think is really, really cool. And that specifically I want to get your feedback on. Maybe I'll just like give you the soundtrack and listen to that. But yeah, from you are very good when it comes to discussing video game music, and I want to know what you think about Danganronpa.
Truth bullets. Hype.
Do you know what's coming at you like a bullet right now? Do you know what it is? Emails! We're going to do emails before the HOTTAKE this week.
Whoa.
Caught you off guard.
Yeah, you did.
You don't know when the HOTTAKE is coming, do you?
No. It can come out of nowhere.
No,
it will come out of nowhere.
You never know what's going to happen with this show. You never know what's going to happen. But we're doing emails first this week, just so I could have that little moment.
Mix it up. Shake it up.
Our first email comes in from Ian I really like this email. Also, at Alexander Arts, very good artist. Longtime fan of GT, very cool dude.
Yep.
But he says, naming things in games. Do you care about naming things in games? I surely do. Whether it's troops in Civilization, Pokemon, or characters in a JRPG, I always spend a while thinking about it. My girlfriend, on the other hand, names her Pokemon Dumb Duck and Bird, which drives me nuts. What is your thought process when naming things in games?
Dumb Duck and Bird.
I just name my character Huber now.
You just name character Huber?
That wasn't always the case. I used to name them Max Payne or Hitman. Then it moved to Enemy Zero for a really long time because there's this survival horror game on Sega Saturn called Enemy Zero. It's a really cool game.
That's a really cool name.
Enemy Zero was my screen name and name for a long time, but then I just started going with Huber.
Yeah.
And when JRPGs, when you get other party members, I like to go with the stock name. Tifa's coming in.
Yeah.
That's Tifa. Orin's coming in. It's Orin. Like, I'm not fiddling around with those names ever.
I don't want to read too much into this, but you sound a little bit maybe embarrassed that you name him Huber. Is that true?
Maybe a little bit. It feels so... Dude, it's like my crazy self-consciousness with building things in games.
Yeah.
Just naming them Huber feels kind of lazy. It'd be cool if I could come up with, like a name that fits the world more, or like, I don't know. But at the same time, it's different because JRPGs, you are that character,
Right.
So like Persona 5, it is me inhabiting that character,
Sure.
so they should be called Huber, I guess.
Yeah, I have different rules,
Yeah.
I guess. When it is a character that is supposed to be me, where it's very clear that like there isn't a default name, it's just like the protagonist, then I will name it myself. Because that puts me into it more, exactly what you were describing.
But what do you name Link?
Pokemon are JRPG characters?
No, what do you name Link in Zelda?
Yeah.
Oh, see, that's the thing.
I always got to go with Link.
I always got to go with Link, too.
I always got to go with Link.
Here's the thing that messes with me, and maybe it's interacting with you and Kyle too much, where once I know that it's supposed to be another name, that's always in the back of my mind.
Yeah.
Like this character that I named, Numbnuts, actually is supposed to be named Link.
Yeah.
It's always in the back of my mind.
Yep.
And so when they're calling him Numbnuts, I'm like, I bet they wish they were calling him Link.
Yeah.
And so I feel like I'm...
Like Sinistix, that's Yuffie, dude.
Right.
Like, what are you doing?
No. You did something that you're never... No.
What's her name again?
Her name is Sinistix. There is no other... Whatever you just said does not
Oh,
exist.
my God. All right.
That is not a character in Final Fantasy VII. There's another name.
I mean, we just saw
Goes against my own rule.
on the Dark Souls stream. Yeah, you saw my general like always pretty much go with blood. Persona 5 though was an exception.
Oh, why is that?
Because he's an obviously like a Japanese character, Japanese student. Like I didn't like even though I'm sort of taking his role, it didn't feel like that was me necessarily. Like I felt like he should have had a name in a way. And so I forget what I actually ended up naming him, but I like literally like went through like Japanese names and like mixed and matched until like I got like a surname and all
What
that.
did you end up going with? Yeah, that is cool.
I can't remember what I actually named him.
We gotta find
off the top of my head.
See, it was really hard for me, Blood, because the art that they used for the protagonist of Persona 5, it just was identical to me. Like it looked so much like me that I couldn't help but interpret it as myself because it was like, don't you think it's uncanny?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought about naming mine Ben for, a minute.
And then with like Pokemon's one of those things where there's so many Pokemon where that if there's some kind of like jokey name or like appropriate name that I could come up with like right when I catch it and have to put that name in, then I'll do it.
I take my time
And
with Pokemon.
Otherwise, it's like, you're whatever.
See, I like keeping it to default because I want to remember the different Pokemon. Like I
that too. Like if I don't know what Pokemon is, I'd like to
like a
keep
Machamp will come out and I'll name it like Bigfoot or like Bruiser or something.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
So
I want to
like
talk
something
about...
according.
But it's good for like the first 7 or 8 Pokemon, and then
You
you're
start
like,
running out,
what are you?
Because then you get other like brute looking ones, and it's like, well, I already used Bruiser.
I want to talk about creative characters where, you're just making it up. It can be a different race, it can be a different class, yada yada. You can, give it a big head, crazy hair, all that
Default.
stuff. You always name it Default?
No.
Oh, what do you? Because I tend to get a little bit more creative, but I tend to fall into loops where if I'm making like a female character, I'll always name it like one of two things, or male characters, I'll tend to name it one of two things. But I will interpret that name differently. Mm-hmm. It's just like this weird sort of little ritual that I have. I guess that sounds creepier than I intended it to. But yeah, that's what I go through. What do you guys do for creative characters? Are you naming it Huber?
Depends. There's a lot of creative characters, again, it all depends, case-to-case basis. Like, if I'm making...
It would just make me happy if you made a giant orc and called it Huber.
Yeah, like, if I'm doing a wrestling game, Yeah. I might name it something differently than, like, a Divinity Original Sin or something, Divinity Original Sin, I might just, like, Google some names, make a lizard man and just name him, like, Jakar or something.
Jakar the Lizard Man?
Jakar the Lizard Man.
I would love to do a stream where we just play a bunch of different games, but we only make characters.
Awesome.
And we switch out between the games, and a different person will... That's a good idea.
WWE 2K18 comes out in 2 weeks, and the character creation is going to be insane. So pumped.
How about you, Blood? How do you handle character creation?
Yeah, again, like I said, most of the time, it'll be my own name.
So it'll be Blood for the blank slates.
Okay. But I don't know. I don't know what game it would be, but right now I'm feeling Horus is a good name.
Horus?
Yeah.
I like it.
Where's that? It just came to you?
Just
a moment. You want to make a Horus?
Feel like All
right, let's talk through this.
This is
that's
a very Huberish character, I think, in a way, but more of like a London thug.
What fantasy race is Horus?
Oh, a fantasy race.
Yeah. If it can be applied there.
Maybe an ogre.
Okay.
Nice.
What is Horus's ogre class?
He's a warrior. Yeah.
He is a warrior.
He's a warrior. I didn't want to say it.
Our next question.
We should all make characters for WWE. That'd be fun. That'd be a really fun stream. We all make our own character and then fight.
Our next question comes in from Zach. He says, "Hey allies, I know this subject might be considered taboo by some. But let's discuss religion in gaming. Specifically, why is it almost always portrayed in a negative light? Evil cults, sadistic psychopaths, and murder and mayhem seem to be the focus of most religious portrayals in video games." I also wanted to just put in the killing God in JRPGs, which happens frequently. So why do you think that is? Is it just harder to portray faith in a positive manner, or is religion more interesting for a story when used as a source of evil? Oh, this was a really good question.
Jeez.
Yeah, and very heavy.
Yeah.
I mean, that is...
Great point, though. It's always combative. I'm trying to think of game where you're like a jolly religious person, or like... Oh, I got a great example recently, actually. Night in the Woods did it really well. Because her mom works at the church, and she's just trying to pass that down to the lead character and trying to, have these talks, have these discussions, and just, say,
Actually,
you gotta live a better life.
You may have gotten there already. In Life is Strange, there's a character... who's a Christian, who she gets kind of teased and stuff, and uses stuff you find in her journals.
Yes, I have.
Did I say Life is Strange?
I felt like that was actually handled pretty authentically in a way I was a little surprised by. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's the number one reason that I don't care about Far Cry 5. It's just this weird kind of cynical view of American religion, and it's just not really feeling it, It's it's almost too typecast, in terms of how the cult operates or whatever. And at the same time, from what I've played, it doesn't feel like it has any substantive purpose to it. It's just this imagery,
That always drives me insane where attempt at commentary or satire is just like putting in the stereotype.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think you can use stereotypes in effective ways to have an artistic message if it's done in like a critical way. Like there are elements there that you can play with to say something meaningful, but when you just shove it in and then don't do anything with it, it's just meaningless, and I think makes the problem even worse. But how do you feel, Blood, about religions that are not real, that are fantastical science fiction or fantasy religions? Does that stuff bother you, or is it, far enough removed that it doesn't?
I mean, yeah, it's usually not something that bothers me, because it is, like you're saying, it is fantasy. It is a whole other world, other framework. There is like some weirdness, like when you get towards the end of Xenoblade, there's like some things that feel a little bit weird about that commentary, and like what are you trying to say with this? But it's like, well, we don't need gods anymore or whatever. But at the same time, it's like you look at the framework of that world, and like, and it makes sense in that world. It's just like, again, it goes to like, what is the creator trying to say through saying this? So.
I guess we're not really getting to the heart of the question, though. Is why do you think this is happening? Is religion just an easy target?
Oh, religion is one of the most universal story aspects, that people can connect to, even if you are not religious. It's something, people.
So you think that familiarity, like everybody understands the concept of religion, or is either religious themselves or know somebody that's religious, that it is something
integral to humanity.
Right.
I see.
Mm-hmm.
So
sure, I think that's a very good answer.
All across all storytelling mediums, it is prolific. It is a pillar of storytelling.
Why do you think it's used, Blood? Do you agree with that how integral it is to the history of humanity, or?
I don't know. I feel like in some cases it's one of those things it's very easy to be cynical about, because in a lot of ways, if you're following a religion, it's like it's something that you're aspiring to, and like nobody's perfect. Like nobody's ever going to be perfect. So it's like really easy to get into that mindset of seeing people as being hypocritical or whatever like that, and depend, and it just, like, I think it just depends a lot on people's life experiences. And if, you've been around people who feel holier than thou, or who say one thing and do another, then it's really easy for that to, like, just feel like, every religion is, like, on an equal playing field, and they're all cults, and they're all, trying to manipulate people in a way, and it's harder to see all the good that people have done, and the people that really are trying to do their best.
Right. Yeah, I think that is a good point as well, and can be applied to so many things, where when you have something that is so big and so impactful for so many, like, there are always going to be, when there's a negative example for that thing, it echoes a lot more. Like, you think about, right, like, I am not saying Electronic Arts shouldn't be criticized, or that they haven't done bad things in the past, but because of this huge company, it's like, I see sometimes on the internet, no matter what they say or no matter what they do, the response is the same, that you've done bad things, you've abused your consumers, we're always going to treat you badly, like that sort of thing, where it's just easy to get into this rigid mindset based on several prominent bad examples, and it may not always be true, but that interaction with that thing paints a whole thing where, like, there are people who treat all AAA games as an equal evil, or all, it's so much easier for us as human beings, when we're trying to protect ourselves, to generalize and put a paintbrush over a broad thing, so that way we're never exposed to it. I think it's so much harder to challenge ourselves and say, yes, there's a lot of bad here, but there is also a lot of good, and go through the effort to pick through those things. And along those lines, I would like to see more examples of religion in games. It would be interesting, I think, to play as somebody who is very devout and have that be part of the gameplay somehow. I think that would be very cool.
Well, I mean, I mean, moral choices really fits into that. And,
right.
You know, I feel that there are a lot more room for things that are not so easily black and white from like everybody's perspective, but just like black and white from like or challenging from this character's perspective. You know, It's like what do they believe in, and what is this moment like having them choose between?
Sure.
I imagine it being very, very difficult to try to tell a story in a religious way, or a religious story, like, because so many people have different religions. Not everyone is going to agree with, said religion or said viewpoint. You put your corporate suit on, trying to sell your video game as a product, but then you also want to tell
I mean, I think that happens all the time. And that's it. You're exactly right. Where
so messy.
The reason these things don't happen is because they don't want to step on any toes and create a big controversy that they
the easy way out is to make a villainous religion like Unitology in Dead Space,
but it's far enough removed from actual religion.
Exactly. So it's like, the Unitologists, they're evil, they're making aliens, so let's get them.
It can seem like commentary without any real risk.
Yes,
but that has to stop.
Yeah,
I get it. I understand. It's easy to say. I get that I'm just some asshole on a podcast. I understand, but I want games to be okay with challenging things, even if it creates some controversy. I think we need to do that. I think there's enough going on in the world in so many different aspects that it's just like, just say something. And if it blows up, it blows up. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But, like...
Night in the Woods. I said Night in the Woods to start this, right? Not Life is Strange? Okay. Night in the Woods. Check it out.
Yeah. Moving on. Not quite... so serious, but still an interesting question, I think, from Jared. Greetings, Ben, an honored panel. I like that phrasing. I wanted to get your thoughts on something that has been discussed some, but would love to hear more dialogue on the issue. The Nintendo Switch tax is what he's calling this thing. We've already seen it on multiple games, as you're all aware.
Just Nintendo tax in general. Let me just asterisk that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure. His words, though, the Nintendo Switch tax, but I started thinking about it a lot more with heavy hitters, Bethesda and Rockstar, both announcing some major titles for the Switch this fall and beyond.
Wait, what did Rockstar announce?
L.A. Noire.
L.A. Noire.
Oh, right.
My question is, as a consumer and fan of Nintendo and the Switch, is it my responsibility to invest in these games, of which I've already played, in order for that third-party support to keep coming? Or is it the responsibility of Nintendo to ensure the games are coming day and date, moving forward with other consoles, and at the very least be the same price as Xbox and PlayStation? For L.A. Noire, it's an extra $10 compared to its counterparts. That may not seem like a lot, but to me, that's a pretty troubling sign. Any thoughts on this? My question isn't, should you buy these games on Switch if you want them? Of course you should. My question is more about the unique situation Nintendo is in right now with Switch and third parties, and really unprecedented territory as far as I'm concerned. Love and respect, Jared.
It's both. It's their responsibility to stay on that, keep the pressure up on third parties, keep the communication lines open, get those games on Switch. But also, too, the consumer, if L.A. Noire doesn't sell at all on Switch, GTA 5 is looking less and less likely for Switch. Red Dead 2 is looking less and less likely for Switch. If L.A. Noire comes out and it blows up huge on Switch, that opens the door for further remasters, for further games from Rockstar, just third-party support in general. So I think it's both. And I think the $10 tax, again, this is just some asshole on a podcast speculating.
Right.
Talking to... I had an interesting conversation with Quentin Cobb, who works at Daybreak, used to work at Naughty Dog, just about developing on the Switch versus other systems, developing to get things on the cartridge rather than a disc. Just that there are different challenges involved. It being on the TV and on the gamepad, just all these other factors. So I'm wondering if they had to hire a separate team to work on just that version, and that's where that extra $10 comes from to kind of to recoup, a team that's just working on that version versus the team that's working on the PC, Xbox,
right.
PS4
but I mean,
version,
when we're talking about, but the thing is when we're talking about them costing more on the Switch, we're talking about the release of Doom this fall on Switch versus buying a PS4 copy that's been out for a long time. And I think the reality is just that once a game has been out for a few months, it gets discounted below its actual value.
Yeah.
To sell more copies.
Yeah.
Like, and so I think it's kind of strange that, like, it is kind of annoying that it costs more on a system even though it's been out on these other systems for a long time and it costs less on them. But I don't think it's necessarily unfair.
It's not, because the reality is, sure, it's an old game, but like a new team of people worked on that version to get it out. People, there were publishers and marketers involved on this release coming out. If it were Nintendo that made
the game would have never dropped price in the first place.
Exactly, yeah.
What do you think about the argument that we haven't brought up and Jared didn't bring up, that the tax is because of the unique nature of the Switch?
But I don't think it. Like, I think if you see like re-releases on the PS4, re-releases on Steam, they might not be like full price as if they had come out date and date. Right. But there's still more
than that original version.
Than the original version.
So you're saying that what you're seeing is in line with a trend that's been happening in other places.
I think the Doom scenario is a lot different than the LA Noire scenario, because Doom has been out. This LA Noire version is a brand new version for all the systems.
Right.
But the Switch is $10 more versus Doom is just the old game on Switch.
Right.
But again, new people involved, making it, publishing it again, marketing it, all that stuff.
Do you, Michael Huber, think there is value to Doom being on Switch specifically? Not just the fact that it's a Nintendo console, but the fact that it is, you can play it portably.
Of course, and a new audience, but like, I'm always in favor. Like, I always want every game to be on every system, I'm not one to believe like, I can only have this game over here. It's like, no, give as many people the chance to play as many games as possible.
But are they charging too much for it?
I mean, I don't know the intricacies of how much time and money and effort went into making this a reality. This isn't just somebody snapping their finger and say, put that 1-year-old game on here. Make it happen. Go. This is people working. People doing their jobs. We gotta pay them.
I think sometimes it's, again, I was bringing this up with the religion thing, and I think it's true here, where it's easy to be like, okay, because this game is out for a while, it should be
because
really,
I can
really
go on
cheap.
Amazon and see a used copy of Doom for $17.
It is easy to get into this mindset of everything should be treated the same all the time. But for me, as somebody who paid $60 for Doom, was it 50 or 60? I don't know, something like that.
60.
On PC when it originally came out. That game is fantastic.
Yeah.
I've already played through Doom.
Yeah.
I am happy. Like, to me, I can tell you right now, as somebody who's finished that game, that Doom is worth
every cent
that I pay for it, and will pay again on the Switch, just because I want to experience that version. And so I do think it is important to take it on a case-by-case basis. But
exactly.
The other
that case, I'm okay with, because again, the logistics.
Yeah.
The one that is a little more alarming, though, is LA Noire. Is this simultaneous release on these systems?
Yeah.
Of course, LA Noire is an older game, but again, this version, this remaster, is getting released on all the systems, and that one is the Switch version is $10 more.
It does feel
so
like
it's alarming, and I know
that development cost should have been spread out to have an equal price.
Yeah. So it is. Do
you think that's a dangerous precedent?
It has the potential to.
I don't think it's the first. I think it's been a
it has been happening. Okay, well, this is a high profile one then for me, because I haven't heard about this. I don't know, but again, if this keeps happening, that is alarming. That is troubling. That's unfortunate. Because
but is it unfortunate and you swallow it, or is it unfortunate and that's unacceptable?
I think if we were talking about a game going up to 70, then it's like, no. Do not.
Yeah, like
But if you're talking about a full game that was like $60 when it came out at some point anyways, then it's like, I can always sort of justify it. Like, if it was worth $60 then, why isn't it $60 now, you know?
But if Evil Within 2 came out on every system on Friday the 13th, and the Switch version was $70, that is unacceptable, man.
You think it's unacceptable?
I think it's unacceptable because you can argue that while it's, you get the portability factor, you're paying an extra basically $10 to have a handheld version of the game. If you want to headcanon it, look at it like that. I'm getting the Wii version and the 3DS version, in a weird sense of reality. You're getting two kind of versions of it. But the Switch has been known to downgrade their visuals, So I'm paying $10 more. Yeah, I get it portable, but I'm getting a lesser performing version of the game as well. So
are you saying it's unacceptable in the way where you, Michael Huber, are not going to be picking up those versions?
I mean, for me personally, it's a case-to-case basis, but if Nintendo comes out and this starts happening for every single game, that is going to be very damaging to the Switch reputation.
What do you think about the other part of this email where he's saying, is it our responsibility to buy these third-party titles to let people know that third-party matters?
No. I mean, you buy the games you want to buy.
Yep.
Yeah, buy what you want to buy, but, try not to pirate games and try to support things you really love. Like, sometimes I'll regrettably borrow a game from Brad that he gives me. He let me borrow Kingdom Hearts 2.8. Sure, Kingdom Hearts obviously doesn't need my $40 or $50, whatever 2.8 was. But still, Kingdom Hearts is a franchise that I love and that I want to get behind and support, but they're missing out on my sale. I support them wholeheartedly. So, again, it's a sticky situation.
Yeah.
Try to support what you really, really hold dear.
Well, the thing for me is we're still pretty early on. There have been some disappointing ports to Switch for me personally, particularly Dragon Quest Heroes 1 and 2 was a bummer. But for me, like, I'm going to be giving Doom a shot. I may or may not give L.A. Noire a shot, and depending on how those versions are, like, the portability factor. I'm carrying, right now I'm carrying my Switch with me most places.
Yeah.
And so the idea of having games that I know I already like in this form is very appealing to me. And if those versions they don't have to be perfect, but if they're reasonably well executed, like, that's a big deal for me.
Yeah.
Like, the gimmick of the Switch is working out with my life in a very big way.
For sure.
But yeah, a lot of things to consider there. I think it was a good thought-provoking.
Are you sure these emails aren't the HOTTAKEs?
The emails, that's the thing, is the emails are their own little HOTTAKEs. Sometimes the emails are better than the HOTTAKEs because these people are able to bring things that I never would... I would never think of. Did you think these were good emails, Blood?
Yeah.
Those were great.
Do you think it's a good time for HOTTAKE?
Oh my god.
Blood? Do you think it's a good time?
That's good, man. That's good.
This week's HOTTAKE, I actually switched up the HOTTAKE at the last minute.
Whoa.
Because what I was going to do, I think we've talked about enough before, but kind of talking about value, talking about these re-releases, this is actually a perfect transition because we collectively at Easy Allies lapped up the SNES Classic. We lapped it up. We all like either pre-ordered like multiple versions or waited early in line. We were so on board for this thing, and for a lot of us, these are games that we already own in multiple places in some instances, different times. And this is the second example. The NES Classic we also all freaked out about and tried to get our hands on. And I noticed us getting excited, like think about our response to Final Fantasy IX on PS4, which also re-released on PC, and then it had a downloadable version on PSP Vita, PS3, all that good stuff. We're getting excited about these things, spending money time and time again on these re-releases. And somebody during one of my streams said, hey man, it's just pure BS how much work Microsoft is doing in making these things backward compatible and making you not have to repay for them. Like, it's so cool that I've got Lost Odyssey, Super Meat Boy, Bayonetta on my Xbox One, and I didn't have to pay for those things again. Whereas on PS4 or other platforms, I do. But I'm doing it on other platforms. I'm not making a big stink about it. So my question for this week's HOTTAKE, after that long preamble, is, while it's okay for us to get excited about these games, it's okay for us to be spending money, do you think we should be raising our voices a little bit more that these games that we have purchased, even if they are releasing slightly better versions, that they should be acknowledging that prior investment? That there should be some sort of acknowledgement, especially on something like PlayStation 4, where you can't be playing these PS1, PS2 classics that you may have already bought on your PS3 on your PS4. Is that unacceptable? Should we be getting a little bit more credit for those purchases?
Yeah, I think the PS3 to PS4 and the Wii to Wii U to Switch, like, I think those are the perfect examples, because now we're in this digital marketplace, right? Like, there's no really conceivable way that, like, I could take my NES cartridge of Bionic Commando and say, hey, why doesn't this play on my Switch? You know, but now that, like, we have account systems and emails and credit cards and everything that, like, tracks this whole purchase history, it doesn't make sense that, okay, this machine can technically play this game, so why not? You know, like, the only realistic reason is because backwards compatibility. You know, as I said, it's like Microsoft's got it going on. It's not really that talked about, you know, and in comparison, if you invest a lot of money into making something backwards compatibility versus invest some money into re-releasing something, then it's like, well, you can get your money back if you re-release something, you know. So it's a strange kind of a thing to where what Microsoft's doing is really great for their goodwill among their customers, but it's hard to see how it would attract new customers in the same way.
Well, the backwards compatibility thing isn't the only thing Microsoft is doing. They're also doing the Game Pass, where that is a new, arguably cost-effective way for you to play a lot of this older stuff by just paying a flat fee. And it's not just, you know, 360 games. It's like Xbox Live Arcade, like retro games as well, and all of that sort of stuff. And so that's a different thing. But arguably, you're paying a nominal fee to experience a lot of things that you may have already experienced, just in a very convenient way.
Yeah.
What do you think, Huber?
This is something I always wrestle with. You know, I love the idea of being able to put your old games into your new system and just have it work. Like, Xbox has got it going on. I love that you said that. You know, it's, you know, I'm thinking about replaying Red Dead Redemption, obviously, because the Red Dead hype is out of control, and I'm way more down to just put in the 360 disc into my Xbox One than get out my old PS3 and do it that way. You know, and the Xbox One will look a little better, run a little better. So, yeah,
let me throw
it's
this
tough.
at you.
Like, but you know, but then there's times when it's so nice to just download this clean version of Final Fantasy IX to put on your PS4 hard drive.
But
like,
it's not just downloading.
You're buying it.
You're
of
buying
course.
it. Yeah.
But it's like, was work put into that? You know, did people work extra? It goes back to what we were talking about earlier about, like, the people are working to make that happen. So,
but I think the best example for me, and I would, you know, hopefully whenever Nintendo announces whatever the crap they're going to do with old games on the Switch, was the Wii to Wii U transition.
Yes,
because it was
disgusting.
No.
Just the eShop, the 3DS, was it? What you had on your 3DS, you couldn't transfer.
Yeah,
over?
no, that's a whole other thing. What I'm getting at though is,
yeah.
If you had your Wii games,
Yeah.
on your Wii U, your Virtual Console games, when you went to the store, it saw that. Yeah. It knew that you already owned this game, and they're like, okay, this isn't going to cost $10. It's just going to cost like $1 or $1.50, so that you can have these new features like save states and stuff that, like, the stuff that they actually did make the work for the Wii U version.
Cool.
And so to me, like, that makes perfect sense. It's like, okay, you've tracked that I've got this. You've done something more. Okay, charge me some nominal fee, to be able to play it in a more convenient way.
Yeah.
What about the issue of perception, where you announce something like a Final Fantasy IX, or you have a fancy trailer or something that like, hey, this is coming out in the store Tuesday, get excited about it. Do you think that has more impact and plays more of a psychological trick on us than just, here's all of the games that are going to be backwards compatible, here's the list, check it out.
Yeah, it's an event. It's a release.
It's an event. How important do you think that it being an event is?
Extremely. The zeitgeist. Backwards compatible is a very singular personal thing. Mm-hmm. What I own, I can now pop in and play. It is not like...
It almost feels
they're
like...
not releasing Red Dead Redemption again. They're making it so privately in your home, if you own it, you can play it, versus like, yo, we're releasing this. This is coming out.
It almost feels like it's validating a cause in a weird way where, like, you go and you release something that people have been waiting this company to give attention to for a long time, that they feel like they have to buy it to put their money where their mouth is and maybe like increase further development.
Yeah.
Like they're putting so much stock in the re-release, and that by spending money, it's some sort of vindication for that. Do you think there's truth there? Or...
I mean, if Dragon Quest VIII got put on the store in any way, shape, or form, I would give them my money for support. Absolutely.
But for the support.
For the support.
Again, it's like you're supporting this cause.
Like, here, yes.
Right, for something that you have already supported multiple times.
Yeah. So again, it's like that, the internet just being like, we started the podcast kind of talking about it just, when we were talking about Destiny, just being plugged in, and the internet being just this limitless, boundless thing of like, you look at backwards compatibility and you look at all these games being released, but then, when you take stock and when you sit down and you think about the games coming out that you want to even play or rebuy in any given moment, for me personally, it doesn't come up that often. I'm so overwhelmed by newer games. I'm just overwhelmed by everything in life. So many mediums. It's like, Final Fantasy IX came out again. I have the PS1 version. I haven't even bought the PS4 one because I don't have time to play it. It's just... It's weird. Because there are so many Xbox backwards compatible games, but like you were saying, Blood, of just like, nobody ever talks about it. Mm-hmm.
Or so if they talk about it, it's like, they don't talk about, this game.
Yeah. Because
it's like, this just chunk of games at any given time that, gets that release, So it's, you don't get that singular thing. It's like, everyone's excited about this game because they remember it. It's just like, nope, this wave of games, everything from, some weird little license game that nobody's ever heard of, and then it, like, you kind of have to like sift through that list and like, that's good, okay, that's good, that's great. But it's a weird thing.
The unreasonable me, though, would obviously want every system to be backwards compatible with every game on their systems.
Yeah, and that's the other thing.
Let me put the games I bought in my system and play them, period. But that just seems unreasonable, But Xbox is doing work. That is pretty much what you can do with Xbox One. You can just pop your 360 games in there, and that is so nice. That is so amazing.
Still not all of them.
Still not all of them, but
in this weird way.
That is the trend I want to see, because Nintendo has burned us all.
It's weird because everything that you're saying I completely agree with, whereas backwards compatibility used to be an expectation and now it's a luxury.
Yeah.
It's
a luxury.
And that's very strange.
We played all the GameCube games. You played all the Wii games.
But in a weird
PS3
way,
originally played all the PS2 games.
Yeah.
And this might sound upsetting, I guess, but what I'm seeing is probably a net positive. While I do think it's kind of BS that people are not following good examples, and they just keep releasing the same thing over and over again. I have to envision some sort of net positive, because I feel like things that I didn't think would be part of the conversation are once again a part of the conversation because of the spectacle around them.
Yeah.
It's nice seeing people talk about Secret of Mana again.
Totally.
It's nice seeing
Final
people talk
Fantasy
about
9.
people talking about Final Fantasy 9 again. And I don't... Like, I think the SNES Classic is a cool thing that's not hurting anyone, and it's this cute little SNES Classic that is clearly and obviously playing off nostalgia, but at least there's something there. At least it's got this, attractive UI. At least it has an HDMI port in the back. At least it has Star Fox 2 in it that wasn't readily available before. And the other thing, real quick, before I finish, is when I say net positive, that's what I mean, where if re-releasing games is netting people a lot of money, that they feel compelled to re-release things that are extremely... Like, I'm somebody... There are a lot of games that I want to play that are almost, like, prohibitively expensive for me to do so. Because of this re-release craze, things that were once out of my reach are now $15, $20 instead of being $80 or $100. That's really important to me.
Totally.
I will happily take those downloadable versions rather than hunting for discs or cartridges. And so that's what I mean when I say net positive. Like, in a way, yes, it's kind of scummy.
More visibility kind of thing. Yeah.
Right.
I think PlayStation specifically is in the hardest and worst spot in this whole thing. Because Xbox One has backwards compatibility. Nintendo, the Switch is weird, but the Switch is obviously its own bag of worms. But you look at Wii to Wii U and Virtual Console. Who knows what the Switch is doing? It's an unknown quantity right now. But there are just so damn many PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2 games that tens of thousands, maybe more, people do not have access to. So many people just have a PS4 and a PS3, or just have a PS4, weren't around for PS1, weren't around for PS2. So many of those games cannot be played unless you have a PS1, a PS2, or a very, very specific PS3. When I said Dragon Quest VIII, it got me thinking about that. Like, well, what if you want to play the original Metal Gear Solid and you only have PS4?
It's so upsetting to me.
I can't play Metal Gear Solid?
Because with the PS3, I actually thought they did an excellent job. Not as much with the PS2 classics, but with the PS1 classics. And then going even farther and having all of these cool imports. Yeah. Like, there are so many great PS1 games. So many that came out with PS1 classics. Yeah. And the thing is like...
Let me download those on PS4. Let me have access.
You've done a great job of unifying those accounts in so many ways that it just seems so nakedly obvious the reason you're not letting me play those games on PS4 is so you can get me to buy them again. Yeah. Like, it just...
Because I can download it on my Vita, I can download it on my PS3, I can download it on my PSP.
To go to that length where you can give us, in the previous generation, all of these different avenues, but then here, a console that is doing exceptionally well, to not let us do that, it is just... angry.
Making it, and it's making it a huge deal.
It makes me feel like I shouldn't have spent all that money when times were good. Yeah. Because now you're just slapping me in the face.
Yep. There's so many games on the PS3 store that you cannot get on PS4. It is ridiculous.
Do you think it's a slap in the face, Blood? Do you think it's not fair that those games that I bought?
Yeah, I mean, again, going back to the accounts thing, like, I think that's the main sort of issue is, people have invested a lot of money in things like the Virtual Console, and the fact that now we have a deadline for when that is all going to be shut down and you can't download it anymore. It's like, okay, well, I've spent the money on those games. What are you going to do about it?
Right.
You can't just tell me that it's I got to get everything onto a bunch of SD cards and that's the only option.
Yeah. It's scary, I think. And something that I tend to forget about because I have totally bought into the convenience of digital. We live in an age where I don't even really enjoy going to stores anymore because I think like, oh, I can just have Amazon deliver it, or I can just preload this on my system, like hit a button and forget it, and then go do something else with my life.
Yeah.
Like we're getting to a point where going to a store is unnecessary, and maybe you love it.
I love it, but we live in Los Angeles, so it's hard.
Exactly. That's another thing. That's another thing that I want to say is like it just sucks.
It's a
driving.
mission.
It's a mission. Like it can take like an hour and a half.
Your whole
to go.
Day. You want to go to Best Buy? It's your whole day.
Right. Exactly. And so the digital convenience is really important to my life, but like Blood was saying, you are forfeiting so much. They can't come to your house and take that disc away from you.
Yeah.
They can totally just be like, yeah, we're ending this service and you can't download this anymore. Yeah. And that is terribly funny.
PS4 was doing the PS2 to PS4 conversions too. Like they were all behind it. Hashtag PS2, PS4 to Shuei, like full on hashtag thing. Getting those games out there. Dark Cloud, whatnot. There's all the GTAs, Manhunt, Bully, I think even like stopped.
Yeah.
Haven't seen any in so long. Who knows?
Yeah, so we've kind of bounced around all over the place and said different things, but I think the summary here is that Sony's being really frustrating at the moment.
Yes.
For reasons that we've detailed. It's not that other companies aren't being frustrating, but they've provided better alternatives than what Sony is doing. However, we're not completely against constant re-releases because it tends to be more good than bad. To me, that seems to be the summary here. I'm not...
Well, I don't think that they're mutually exclusive.
What do you mean by that?
I mean that if you have like backwards compatibility and all of that, you can still put out some form of a re-release, some
and that
form
happens.
of a collector's edition.
Yeah, Xbox gets re-releases that you pay for. Yeah.
So
like Voodoo Vince.
If you look at like take Final Fantasy IX for instance, like you could conceivably get a digital version of that PS1 game, or this re-release which looks very different, and you can choose which one of those things, and by having a re-release and the marketing, it gets you talking about it, and then he's like, well, do I want the re-release or do I want the original, and like either way, you're gonna be giving money towards that game.
I guess me bringing up Voodoo Vince, it doesn't completely make sense since it's an original Xbox game and we're talking about backwards compatibility specifically with 360, but I get what you're saying, Blood. But I think that's going to do it for us on a Frame Trap. How did you guys feel about putting the HOTTAKE at the end, mixing up the format? How did that work for you?
I liked it. And with the crunch.
Yeah?
Not that the emails weren't crunchy. They're both crunchy.
Yeah. Some crunchy
emails are crunchy.
HOTTAKE are a lot of people's favorite parts, and I can understand why. It's very good, very crunchy.
Every time, though, you're like, yeah, that's going to do it for the podcast. I get sad every time.
Do you?
Yeah.
You like it?
Because it's over.
You like being here?
Yep.
Okay. I like being here, too. I hope you like being here with us. The reason why we mixed up this format was actually due to a comment on Frame Trap. I read that and I said, yeah, let's try that again. Let's bounce around between people. Let's, mix it up. Let's not get stale. So if you have any comments, I'm always listening. I may not take all of your suggestions, but the ones I like, I will definitely take. Special call out to our sponsors. Your support means a lot to us. It allows us to do ridiculously long podcasts and things like that. If you would like to be a sponsor for Frame Trap, that is a $200.50 tier. You can go to patreon.com/easyallies. Panel, Michael Huber, Daniel Bloodworth, I would like to thank you for being on, for giving me your well-considered opinions on games. Always good. Eventually, we'll talk about other things. We'll talk about movies and music again on Frame Trap. It will happen. We are just drowning. We're drowning in games. We've been drowning for a long time.
Talked about some good games.
We'll be drowning through November, I'm sure, and probably even December. But we'll get there eventually. We like talking about that stuff, too. Thank you all once again so much for listening, and we will see you next time.